Chapter 1. The package was on Wolfe's desk when I came in from the front hall, and it had the kind of presence that makes you suspect it knows your name. It was a squat square of brown paper, twine and tape. So much tape the sender must have taken a deep personal interest in the subject of sealing things shut. Fritz had placed it precisely at the center of Wolfe's blotter, as if it were a guest who had arrived early and refused to wait in the parlor. Wolfe sat behind it with his hands folded, staring at it the way he stares at a plate when he has just been told it contains turnips. "No," he said. That was all. One word, flat and final, like a judge turning down a plea. I hung my hat on the rack and gave the package a casual look that wasn't casual at all. No what? No delivery. No existence. No thank you. We already have one. Wolfe's eyes didn't leave the thing. No handling, no proximity, until we know what it is. If you want to relocate it to the street, I'll call a moving crew. I leaned closer, letting my nose do a little of the job. Paper, glue, tape, and something faint that didn't belong in a respectable brownstone. "It's not ticking, you disappoint me," Wolfe said. That was not the question. I shrugged. "Then ask it." He didn't. He never did anything in a hurry unless the orchids were involved, and even then he liked the hurry to happen to someone else. He lifted his eyes to mine. "Open it, Archie," he said carefully. "Observe, report." I have been called many things, some of them in court, but I have never been accused of lacking curiosity. I took my penknife from my pocket and began on the tape. It peeled grudgingly, making that dry tearing sound like a man giving up secrets one strip at a time. Under the outer paper was a plain cardboard box. More tape, more twine. A man who developed a philosophy in the time it took to get to the lid. Wolfe watched without blinking, his face expressionless, as if I were dissecting a cockroach. When the last of the tape gave way, I lifted the lid, packing straw. Too much of it. I dug through and found a wrapped bundle, then an envelope inside that, and then a sheet of thick butcher paper folded in half. The butcher paper had weight. Not just the paper's weight, something else, as if the message had been soaked in consequence. I unfolded it. The words were scrawled in heavy block letters, and they were streaked with a dark brown, red that was meant to be blood. It looked like blood the way a cheap theater prop looks like a diamond. I read it once silently. Then I read it out loud because that is my job, to bring ugly things into Wolfe's hearing while he stays clean. I did it. I took Harold Pike where he couldn't talk again. The river took the rest. I can't live with it. Look under the green lamp. Ben Lasker. 18 words can carry a lot of weight when they are tied to a name and a river. My mouth went dry. "That," I said, "is either a confession or a fancy invitation to a nightmare." Wolfe didn't lean forward. He did not reach for the paper. He simply sat and regarded it from a distance, as if it might leap. "The stain," he said. "Does it smell like blood?" I sniffed. There was metal in it, a suggestion of iron, but there was also sweetness that didn't belong. "It smells like someone read a book about blood and tried to copy the chapter." Wolfe's lips tightened. "Then it is bait." "Bait for what?" He nodded toward the empty box. "For attention, for response, for movement." "Movement is what you avoid," I said. "It keeps you fresh." His eyes sharpened. "Archie." "All right," I said, and carried the paper closer so he could see it better without having to risk touching it. He studied the letters, the pressure of the strokes, the pauses, the way some lines were heavier than others. If you handed Wolfe a grocery list, he would deduce the writer's childhood habits, and half the time he'd be right. "This Ben Lasker," he murmured. "Do you know the name?" "Nope. Sounds like a man who sells used cars, or a man who breaks legs. Could be both." Wolfe's gaze shifted to the envelope. The butcher paper had been in. What else? I went back into the box. Under the straw was nothing but more straw, and a slab of cardboard at the bottom. No second note, no ticking device, no snake, which was almost a disappointment. Nothing. I said, unless the straw is hiding a confession too. Wolfe exhaled, as if the very existence of the package had cost him oxygen. Then the instruction remains. The green lamp. The green desk lamp on Wolfe's desk has been there longer than my habit of paying my debts late. It sits on the right side, shaded green like the calm surface of a pond, and its base is heavy enough to make a point in an argument. I lifted it. Under the felt base was a slit, old and deliberate. Someone had cut it long ago and tucked something in as neatly as a bank teller tucks in a bill. I pulled it out, a narrow key taped to a card. The card had typed words: storage unit, 9C, Kingside Storage, West 41st. No police, no questions. If you want Pike, bring Wolfe. I whistled. Low, they want you personally. That's either flattering or dangerous. It is neither, Wolfe said. It is inconvenient. That too. He stared at the key as if it were an insect that had crawled up from the floor. Wolfe is not squeamish about murder. He is squeamish about dirt and germs and anything that suggests other people's hands have been where his hands might go. He said, "This has been placed in my lamp. Therefore, someone has been in this office." That's cheerful. It is intolerable, Wolfe said, and his voice had sharpened. Fritz. Fritz appeared in the doorway at once, as if he had been waiting for his name to be spoken. Fritz is as steady as the brownstone itself. Tall, calm eyes that can watch a disaster without spilling a drop of sauce. Yes, sir? Has anyone been in the office unsupervised? Fritz's brows lifted slightly. No one, sir, except Mr. Goodwin, yourself, and myself. And Theodore Horseman on Tuesday for the plants. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. And the cleaners? On Thursday morning, I remained present. Wolfe grunted. Fritz's idea of remaining present is to stand where he can see everything and quietly judge it. I tapped the key against the card. So, either Fritz is lying, which would be the end of civilization, or someone is better than your household security. Wolfe's gaze cut to me. Do not be absurd. I held up my hands. All right, we have a missing Harold Pike, a confession in counterfeit blood, and a key that appeared under your lamp like a bad thought. You're going to love this, Archie, Wolfe said. You will call Saul Panzer. I reached for the phone because when Wolfe says Saul's name, we're no longer playing at trouble. We are acknowledging it. Before I could dial, the doorbell rang downstairs. Fritz moved away with his silent efficiency. A moment later, a woman's voice floated up, tight and steady, the kind of steady that comes from clamping down on panic until it can't breathe. Fritz returned and stood aside. A lady to see you, Mr. Wolfe. Wolfe's mouth compressed. He dislikes surprises. He also dislikes visitors who arrive unannounced and bring emotions into his office. She may enter, he said, as if granting a permit. She came in, shoulders square under a raincoat that was still wet at the sleeves. Early 30s, maybe, with dark hair pulled back in a way that suggested she had done it quickly in a mirror. While her mind was on something else, her eyes had the red-rimmed look of someone who had cried and then decided crying was useless. She looked at Wolfe and then at me, and her gaze fixed on the butcher paper in my hand. My name is Ellen Pike, she said. My brother Harold is missing. Wolfe's eyes didn't flicker. Sit down, Miss Pike. She remained standing. I don't want to sit. I want to know if you will help me. I held up the butcher paper. You came at a convenient time, Miss Pike. We just received a note that mentions Harold Pike and a river, and it's signed by a man named Ben Lasker. That ring a bell. Her face went pale, but her hands stayed steady at her sides. Ben Lasker, she said slowly. He works security for Quill Maritime. Wolfe's voice was mild. And your brother? He is an auditor, Ellen Pike said. He was hired to examine Quill Maritime's books. 2 weeks ago, he called me late at night. He sounded scared. He said if anything happened to him, I should come here. He said you would understand. Wolfe's eyes moved briefly to me. If Wolfe has a weakness, It is that he cannot resist being appealed to on the basis of his reputation, I said. Smart brother. Ellen Pike's eyes flashed. He's not smart. He's careful. He doesn't frighten easily. He told me he found something in those accounts that wasn't just crooked, it was dangerous. Wolfe said, why did he not go to the police? He said the police would be too slow, she replied. And he said Quill's people would know. He said the only way to stay alive was to stay quiet until he could put the information somewhere safe. And did he? Wolfe asked. I don't know, Ellen Pike said, and for the first time her voice wavered. He stopped answering my calls 3 days ago. Yesterday I went to his apartment. The super said he hadn't been home. His phone went to voicemail. This morning his boss told me he hadn't been at work all week. Wolfe regarded her for a moment, and then his gaze shifted to the key and card on his desk. He still hadn't touched either one. He said, Archie, show her the card. I slid it across the blotter to Ellen Pike, careful not to touch the key more than I had to. She read it quickly, and I saw her eyes widen at the last line. If you want Pike, bring Wolfe, she read aloud. They wrote this. That is the implication, Wolfe said, and the note. She reached for the butcher paper, then stopped smart. She had seen Wolfe's reluctance and took the hint. It says Ben Lasker did it. It says so, Wolfe agreed. The stain suggests blood, but Mr. Goodwin believes it. Harold only told me Quill Maritime was full of men who smile while they sharpen knives. Wolfe's mouth tightened. Men who do that are rarely competent, he said. And then, after a pause, Miss Pike, why did you come here today, at this hour? She lifted her chin, because Harold told me to, and because I got a call. Wolfe's eyes sharpened. From whom? I don't know. Ellen Pike's fingers curled in the fabric of her raincoat. A man, he didn't give his name, he said. Harold's situation would be resolved soon, he said. If I wanted Harold alive, I should keep quiet and not involve the police. Then he said, I should come to you because you would already be involved. I exhaled slowly. That's considerate, they coordinate. Wolfe sat back an inch, and I could see the machinery in his head begin to align. He didn't like being pushed. He liked even less being arranged, he said. You have come to a man who abhors coercion. I don't care what you abhor, Ellen Pike said. And there was heat now, raw and honest. My brother is missing. Wolfe's eyes held hers. Do you know what your brother discovered? No, she said. He wouldn't tell me. He said it was safer if I didn't know. Perhaps, Wolfe said. Or perhaps he wished to keep you from discouraging him. Ellen Pike's mouth tightened. I didn't discourage him. I told him to quit, and he did not, Wolfe said, as if stating that water is wet. Silence settled. Outside, the late afternoon, light dimmed against the windows. Inside, the brownstone held itself steady, as it always did, even when the world brought in its mess. Wolfe said finally, I will consider your request. Ellen Pike's eyes widened. Consider? Miss Pike, Wolfe said, and his voice had that precise edge that can slice through a room. I do not leap. I do not rush. I do not run errands for anonymous men with keys and threats. Her face went taut. Then, what do you do? Then he looked at Ellen Pike. He said, I think. That was the nearest Wolfe ever came to an apology. I cleared my throat. Boss, we can think and still take steps. The card said Kingside Storage. Unit 9C, that's not poetry, that's an address. Wolfe's eyes moved to me. You are eager, I'm practical, I said. Also, I'd like to know whether Harold Pike exists in a river right now. Ellen Pike flinched, but she didn't look away. Wolfe's fingers tapped once on the desk, one controlled motion that meant irritation and decision in equal parts. He said, Very well, I will accept this matter. Ellen Pike's shoulders sagged slightly, a tiny collapse of tension. Thank you. Wolfe lifted a hand. Do not thank me yet. He turned his head toward the hallway. Fritz. Fritz appeared again, as if conjured. "Beer," Wolfe said. "For Miss Pike." Ellen Pike blinked. "Aye, it will do you no harm," Wolfe said. "And it may prevent you from fainting. Archie, call Saul Panzer." I reached for the phone again, and this time I dialed. Saul answered on the second ring, calm as a man reading a timetable. "Saul," I said, "we have trouble. Come to West 35th right away." "I will be there," he said, and hung up. Ellen Pike had accepted the beer when Fritz brought it, but she held the glass like a prop, not a drink. Wolfe said, "Miss Pike, you will remain here until Mr. Goodwin and Mr. Panzer are ready to proceed." Proceed, Wolfe liked that word. It made action sound like a legal document. Ellen Pike's eyes darted to the door, as if she expected the anonymous men to burst in. "Are we safe here?" Wolfe's lips twitched. It might have been the beginning of a smile, if Wolfe's face knew how. "As safe as one may be in New York City," he said. "This house is not easily invaded." I didn't agree with that as much as I might have yesterday. Because the key had been under the green lamp. I was about to say so when my phone rang. The sound was sharp in the quiet room, like a slap. Wolfe's eyes went to the instrument. Ellen Pike's face tightened. I lifted the receiver. "Goodwin." A man's voice came on the line, low and controlled. "If you leave that house," he said, "you won't come back." Then he hung up. I stared at the receiver for a full second, listening to the dead line, and felt the hook sink in deep. Because this one wasn't bait for Wolfe. It was bait for me. Chapter 2, Scene 1. The warning I kept my voice light, because if you don't, you start hearing your own pulse, and that's never helpful. "That sounds like a poor review," I told the voice on the phone. "Want to speak to management?" The line clicked dead. I set the receiver down carefully, as if it might bite, and looked at Wolfe. "We've got an admirer." Wolfe's eyes were steady on me, and steady on a man like Wolfe means the iron is already hot, and he's deciding where to lay it. Of course, they delivered a box. They will deliver more. Ellen Pike had been standing rigidly by the chair I'd offered her. Now her jaw worked as if she were chewing on something that wouldn't go down. "My brother's alive, isn't he?" Wolfe didn't lie. He also didn't pad the truth. "He may be. We will proceed as if he is. As if is better than no. And when you're drowning, you'll take a splinter," I said. The caller sounded like he took lessons in calm. "Whoever it is, he wants me scared enough to stay put." Wolfe's lip curled slightly, not a smile. Wolfe doesn't smile at threats. He catalogs them. Then you will disappoint him. "He also has bad timing," I said. I was going out anyway. Wolfe shifted in his chair, a small movement that meant, "Now we are doing business. Archie, sit. Miss Pike, you will also sit, Fritz." Fritz appeared in the doorway, the way he always does when Wolfe's voice takes that tone. Instantly, silently, with the calm of a man who has carried a tray through earthquakes. His eyes flicked once to Ellen and once to me. Trouble in the house was nothing new. But women with that expression always got Fritz's attention. "He is civilized." "Beer," Wolfe said. Ellen blinked. "I don't. You will drink it," Wolfe told her, without cruelty but with absolute certainty. "You will not faint in my office." Fritz retreated. Wolfe turned to me. "Report exactly." I repeated the words, the tone, the pause before the click. Wolfe listened, as if he were weighing each syllable on a scale he trusted. When I finished, Wolfe said, "They are not protecting themselves. They are shaping us." "Meaning," Wolfe said, "they want us to act in a prescribed manner, to go here, not there, to consult no one, to react." Ellen's hands clenched on the arms of the chair. "So they have Harold." "That," Wolfe said, "is likely. I have been in the room for plenty of bad news, but this one had a sister watching every word like it could turn into a weapon," I said. "The card says Kingside Storage, Unit 9C. The key was under your lamp. Somebody has been in this house, or has help that has." Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "Yes, that is intolerable." Fritz returned with the beer. Ellen took the glass because Fritz placed it in her hand, the way a nurse places medicine in yours. No discussion, no drama. She drank a swallow. Color came back to her cheeks, or at least less of it was missing. Wolfe said, "Miss Pike, tell us again what your brother said to you." Ellen swallowed. "He called me 2 weeks ago," he said. "He said if anything happened, I should find Nero Wolfe. He said you'd understand. He said not to trust Quill Maritime's people." "What did he say he had found?" Wolfe asked. "He wouldn't tell me," she said, and her voice cracked slightly. "He said if I knew, I'd be in danger." Wolfe grunted. He was correct. I gave Ellen a look. "Did he mention names? Anyone at Quill? Anyone outside?" She shook her head. "He mentioned a woman once, Lydia Crane. He said Crane was Quill's legal counsel, and he said Ben Lasker handled security. That's it." Wolfe's eyes went to the butcher paper lying on his desk, still untouched. "Ben Lasker," he murmured, "chosen as the scapegoat." "Or the fall guy," I said. "If Lasker is alive and we're meant to think he's dead, that's a neat trick." "It is not neat," Wolfe said. "It is vulgar." That was Wolfe's way of admitting it had gotten his attention. Scene 2. Planning. Wolfe began making calls the way he does when the chessboard is still empty, and he intends to place the pieces exactly where he likes. He called Saul Panzer first. He didn't ask Saul to do anything dramatic. He asked him to be present. Saul's presence is dramatic enough. Then Wolfe called Inspector Kramer. Wolfe did not tell Kramer that a confession in fake blood had arrived on his desk, or that a key had been hidden under his green lamp, or that a woman sat in his office with fear in her eyes. Wolfe told Kramer that he had a matter that might involve financial irregularities and a missing person, and that he would be in touch if police assistance became necessary. Kramer's voice came through the receiver loud enough for me to hear the protest, even without eavesdropping. Wolfe's reply was calm. "Inspector, your impatience is familiar. Control it. Good day." He hung up. Ellen stared at him. "You called the police." "I informed them that the universe continues to contain crime," Wolfe said. "That is all." "That won't help Harold," she said sharply. Wolfe's gaze pinned her. "Madam, if you want hysteria, you will have to find another address." Ellen flinched, and then she straightened. "I'm sorry. I'm trying." "I know," Wolfe said, and there was a rare softness in it, as if he had decided she had earned one small kindness. "Now listen, Archie will go to Kingside Storage with you." "With me?" Ellen repeated. "Why me?" "Because," Wolfe said, "they have provided a recording. They will probably attempt to manipulate your emotions. If they believe you are present, they will reveal more." Ellen's eyes widened. "You're using me." Wolfe's nostrils flared. "Do not be melodramatic. I am not using you. I am not a carpenter. I am employing your position in this matter. If you refuse, you may." Ellen's lips pressed together. She looked at the beer, then at me. "I'll go." "Good," Wolfe said. "Archie, observe everything. Everything." "That's like telling a fish to notice water," I said. But I nodded. Wolfe didn't need agreement. He needed obedience with competence. "Saul will be nearby," Wolfe added. "They're not conspicuous." "I'll take inconspicuous if it's available," I said. "Anything else?" Wolfe's eyes went to the key again. "Do not involve the police. Do not touch anything unnecessary. Bring back what you find. And Archie, yes?" Wolfe's voice dropped a fraction. "Do not die. It would be inconvenient." That from Wolfe was practically an embrace. Saul arrived within the hour, quiet and composed. He greeted Wolfe, gave Ellen Pike a respectful nod, and then waited. Saul is the only man I know who can wait without looking, as if he is wasting time. Wolfe gave him instructions, brief and exact. Saul listened, nodded once, and that was that. At a little after 5, I got Ellen into her raincoat and out the front door. Saul did not walk beside us. He drifted, behind across, visible only if you already knew to look. As we stepped onto the sidewalk, I couldn't help glancing at the windows across the street. If someone had been in Wolfe's office, it meant someone could be anywhere. Ellen saw my glance. Do you think they're watching? Summoners always watching in this town, I said. Usually it's a parking attendant. Today it might be a criminal with ambition. She gave a tight, humorless sound. My brother didn't deserve this. Most people don't, I said. That's why it's so popular. We took a cab. I chose it instead of my own car because my own car is recognizable in our neighborhood and because I didn't feel like donating it to the plot. Ellen stared out the window, not seeing the street. If Harold is alive, why would they let us know? To play with us, I said. Or to bargain, or because they want Wolfe to do something for them. What could they want from him? I sighed. From Wolfe, they want him to solve a problem. Criminals do it all the time. They either want their own mess cleaned up, or they want him misdirected while they finish something else. Ellen's fingers gripped her purse strap. And if he refuses? Wolfe refuses the way a mountain refuses, I said. Then he decides if moving is worth it. She turned to me, eyes hard. Are you always like this, making jokes? I make jokes, I said. Because if I don't, the world wins. Scene 3, Kingside Storage. West 41st. Kingside Storage sat on West 41st, like a bad idea that had acquired a lease. The sign tried to look cheerful, which only made the building look guiltier. Inside, it smelled like damp cardboard and old regret. A thin man with a mustache that looked stapled on peered at us from behind a counter. You need a unit, he asked. We've already got one, I said, and held up the key. 9C. His eyes flicked to the key, then to Ellen, then back to me. The flicker said, I've seen this key, and I wish I hadn't. You got paperwork, he asked. The key is the paperwork, I said. Unless you want a notarized confession. His mouth tightened. Sign in. He shoved a clipboard across the counter. I wrote my name because if someone is setting a trap, hiding your name is like hiding your shoes during a flood. He buzzed us through a door into a corridor lined with metal doors. The corridor was long enough to make you feel alone and narrow enough to make you feel watched. Our footsteps echoed as if the building was listening. Unit 9C was at the end. The lock took the key cleanly. Too cleanly. A used lock usually argues a little. This one turned like it had been oiled and polished for the occasion. I looked at Ellen stay behind me. She nodded, face pale, eyes fixed on the door. I rolled it up. Inside was not a mountain of boxes or someone's grandmother's furniture. It was staged, a folding chair, a cheap table, and on the table, a second box smaller than the one that had been delivered to Wolfe, wrapped in plain brown paper with a strip of green tape across the top. Beside the box sat a recorder, old-style big buttons, the kind a salesman used before everyone carried recording devices in their pockets. A note lay next to it. 2 words, typed, press play. Ellen took a half step forward. I stopped her with a hand. No touching, I said. I'm the one who gets killed in this chapter. Her eyes flicked to me, startled, and then the fear came back. Please. I will, I said, and reached for the recorder. I didn't press play immediately. I looked around first floor, corners, ceiling, under the table. You learn habits when you spend your life stepping into other people's traps. Nothing obvious. That didn't mean nothing was there. I pressed play. The recorder whirred softly, and then a voice filled the unit. Strained, whispering, urgent. Ellen, it's Harold. If you hear this, don't trust. A loud sound cut him off. A thud, breathing. Then another voice, low and amused, with the confidence of a man who enjoys being listened to. Tell Mr. Wolfe, he has 48 hours. He finds what we want, or Harold Pike becomes what Ben Lasker already is. The tape clicked off. Ellen made a sound like someone swallowing a scream. Her hand flew to her mouth, then dropped. That was him, she whispered. That was Harold. I kept my own face steady. Hearing a man's voice on a tape does odd things to your mind. It makes the missing person real again, and it also makes the danger real in a different way. Closer, more personal. Ellen's eyes burned. He said, don't trust. She looked at me. Don't trust who? That's the point of cutting him off, I said. They want Wolfe to chase the rest of that sentence. Her breath came in short pulls. Ben Lasker is alive. I saw him 3 days ago. I stared at the green tape on the small box. Then whoever wrote the confession wants us believing he's dead. Why? Ellen demanded, voice shaking. Why would they? To frame him, I said, or to use him as leverage, or because they already have him and want us to think we don't need to look. Ellen's eyes flicked to the door as if she expected Harold to be behind it. The unit, empty except for the props, mocked her hope. I reached for the small box, but before I opened it, I ran my fingers along the green tape lightly, feeling for anything unusual. No wires, no raised spots. The tape was just tape, green for drama. I peeled it back and opened the box. Inside was a dock receipt stamped Quill Maritime, folded once, and beside it, a single brass button, heavy, well-made, engraved with a Q, the kind of button you'd find on a uniform coat, the kind of button that falls off when someone grabs you hard. I unfolded the receipt. It had dates, numbers, a peer designation, a scribbled signature that could have been anyone's. The stamp was sharp. Quill Maritime. It made the paper feel official and dirty at the same time. On the back, in block letters like the note, was a riddle. What sinks without water? Ellen stared at it, then at me. Her eyes were wide and pleading, as if answers might roll out of my pockets if she looked hard enough. I didn't have answers, not yet, but I had instincts, and they were already pointing. A quill, I said slowly. Ink sinks without water, or a reputation, or a company. Ellen blinked. That's not an answer. It's a choice, I said. Riddles are choices. They want Wolfe thinking in a certain direction. And the receipt, she asked. What does it mean? It means Quill Maritime is where this started, I said, or where they want us to think it started. Either way, Wolfe will want eyes on it. Ellen's lips trembled. So we go there. Now, we go back to Wolfe, I said. We give him what we found. Then we go where he points. Ellen grabbed my sleeve, but 48 hours. I heard it, I said. Wolfe heard it too. Even if he didn't, he'll take the time limit personally. He hates deadlines from strangers. I slid the receipt into my pocket and wrapped the button in my handkerchief. The recorder I took too. If it was evidence, Wolfe would want to hear it himself. And if it was a trap, Wolfe would want to dissect it. As we stepped out of the unit and rolled the door down, I glanced down the corridor. The manager had vanished, which was either good sense or a sign he'd been told to. We signed out without conversation and went back onto the street. That's when I saw the car. Across the street, parked half a block down, was a dark sedan that looked ordinary enough to be invisible, except for the way it was angled and the way its engine turned over the moment we stepped out, slow and patient, like it had been waiting for its cue. Ellen noticed it too. Her hand tightened on her purse strap. Is that? Maybe, I said. Maybe it's a man going to dinner. Maybe it's the world's most loyal taxi. Or maybe it's the cigarette burn in the dark that wants to follow us home. The sedan eased away from the curb, not fast, not aggressive, just enough to keep us in sight. I took Ellen's elbow. Let's not walk straight to a cab stand. Her eyes flashed. What do? We do what criminals hate, I said. We improvise. I steered her toward the corner, where the foot traffic thickened. Saul Panzer appeared on the opposite sidewalk, as if he had stepped out of the air itself, his face calm, his pace unhurried. He looked at me once, then past me, and his eyes told me he had seen the sedan too. Good. Now it was a dance. We moved with the crowd, crossed on the light, ducked into a small drugstore, and paused at a rack of magazines while Ellen tried to breathe. Through the window, I watched the street. The sedan rolled past slowly. It did not stop. It did not speed up. It simply passed, as if it had no interest at all. That was worse than stopping, because it meant the driver was confident. And confidence, in men like that, comes from having more than one plan. I felt the weight of the recorder in my pocket and the cold brass button wrapped in cloth. A stamped dock receipt, a riddle, a deadline. I looked at Ellen Pike's face, white, determined, terrified, and knew there was only one place the next answer liked to hide, at Quill Maritime. And as we stepped back onto the sidewalk, with Saul drifting like a shadow at the edge of sight, the sedan reappeared at the end of the block, slow, patient, watching us like it owned the street and intended to collect on whatever we'd just found. Chapter 3, Scene 1, Quill Maritime Wolfe listened to the recorder twice. The first time, he sat with his eyes half-lidded and his fingers steepled, as if he were letting the sound wash over him like a chemical bath. The second time, he had me rewind the crucial part. Harold Pike's whisper. The cut-off sentence, the thud, the amused voice with the neat little deadline. When it clicked off again, Wolfe sat back. 48 hours, he said. Ellen Pike had been standing for most of it because sitting felt like surrender. He's alive, she said. It wasn't a question anymore. It was a rope she was holding onto. He was alive when that recording was made, Wolfe replied. That is not the same statement. She flinched, then steadied herself. She was learning that Wolfe's kindness, when he bothered, came in the form of accuracy. I placed the dock receipt and the brass cue button on Wolfe's desk. He didn't touch either. He looked at them as if he could read fingerprints with his eyes. Quill Maritime, he murmured. Yes, I said, and I'd like to go there before they decide to mail us an arm. Wolfe's gaze cut to me. Do not be grotesque. Then tell the villains, I said. They started it. Wolfe ignored that. He was already at work, and Wolfe at work is like a locomotive. It doesn't care if you're in the way. It expects you to move. Archie, he said, you will go to Quill Maritime. Miss Pike will accompany you. Ellen's head snapped up. Why me again? Because you are the reason they cannot simply dismiss him, Wolfe said, nodding toward me. You will apply pressure. You will also observe. You are intelligent enough to notice if they lie badly. Ellen blinked, surprised to have Wolfe grant her intelligence as if it were a license. All right, Wolfe's eyes narrowed. And you will not touch anything without Mr. Goodwin's consent. Ellen's mouth tightened, but she nodded. I said, Saul. Wolfe's lips compressed. Mr. Panzer will be nearby. I will also have Mr. Durkin in the vicinity of Quill Maritime. And I have informed Inspector Kramer, vaguely, that a situation exists. Kramer loves that, I said. It's like telling a bulldog, you've hidden a stake in the house, but he can't come in. Wolfe's nostrils flared. Yes. He fixed me with a look. Do not discuss the recorder. Do not mention the key in my lamp. Do not mention that an unknown person has violated my office. Just stroll in and ask for the missing auditor, I said. Easy. Stroll, Wolfe said, is not a word you employ with dignity. I'll limp in, I offered. Wolfe dismissed me with a slight movement of his hand. Go. We went. Quill Maritime's headquarters occupied one of those buildings that tries to look like it has always been successful. Glass, stone, polished metal, all of it arranged to reflect money back at you until you feel poorer just standing there. The lobby was polished enough to see your mistakes in. A man could look down and watch his own tie knot judge him. The receptionist smiled like a curtain, presentable, smooth, and clearly designed to conceal whatever was behind it. I gave her my best professional grin, the one that says I'm friendly, but I'm also a nuisance by trade. Archie Goodwin, this is Miss Ellen Pike. We're here to see Ben Lasker. The curtain smile didn't change, but something in her eyes tightened. Mr. Lasker isn't available. That's funny, I said. He just confessed to a murder in blood. You'd think he'd clear his schedule. Ellen Pike inhaled sharply. She hated hearing her brother's name used that way, like a bargaining chip. But she held herself together. The receptionist's smile faltered, just a tremor, and then she recovered. Sir, I don't know what you mean, but... I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice like a man sharing a secret, and not like a man applying a thumb to a bruise. Listen, Harold Pike is missing. Ben Lasker's name is on a confession. You can either bring me Mr. Lasker, or you can bring me someone higher up who can explain why your company's name is about to be dragged through the street on a rope." That did it. The curtain shifted. She looked at Ellen Pike, at Ellen's rigid jaw and red-rimmed eyes, and something human flickered across her face. She picked up the phone. "Yes," she said into it, tone efficient. "Mr. Goodwin and Miss Pike are here. He says it's urgent." "Yes, sir." She set the phone down. "Please have a seat. Someone will be with you." "We'll stand," I said, because sitting in a lobby like that is like admitting you belong there. Ellen stayed standing too. Her hands were clenched around her purse strap. She looked straight ahead, but I could see the effort it took not to scan the room for her brother's shadow. A minute later, a man in a dark suit approached, the kind of suit that comes with company loyalty, stitched into the lining. "Mr. Goodwin?" he asked. "That's me." "This way, please." We followed him past the security desk and into an elevator that had no visible buttons. The man used a key card, and the elevator decided we were legitimate. The ride up was quiet. Ellen's breathing was controlled, but I could hear it. When the doors opened, we stepped into a hallway with thick carpet and soft lights, comfort designed to keep arguments from echoing. Our guide led us to a conference room and opened the door. Inside, a long table sat under recessed lights like a runway for bad news. At the head of it sat Martin Quill, and he sat the way some men sit, as if the chair had been built for his bones. He was in his 60s, silver hair combed back, face tanned in that way that says private clubs and planned vacations. His eyes were sharp as fresh nails, and just as cold. At his right sat a woman in a grey suit, precise and still Lydia Crane. She had hair cut short, a pen placed perfectly beside a legal pad, and eyes that measured you the way a ruler measures paper, without opinion, just distance. At Quill's left sat a man with a broad neck and a face built for frowning Clay Mercer. He looked like he had been recruited from a loading dock and promoted because he could frighten people into punctuality. Quill's gaze flicked to Ellen Pike and performed sympathy. "Miss Pike," he said, voice warm in the way a space heater is warm. "I'm sorry about your brother, this is a terrible situation, but this is not the place." I dropped the butcher paper confession onto the table. The sound was small. The effect was not. Lydia Crane did not reach for it. She didn't even blink. Clay Mercer leaned in, curiosity dragging him forward. Quill's eyes narrowed as he read, and the warmth drained from his expression like water from a cracked basin. "Ben Lasker did not write that," Quill said flatly. "You sure?" I asked. Clay Mercer's mouth twisted. "Because Ben Lasker is standing outside." He nodded toward the door, as if he were summoning a dog. The door opened. Ben Lasker walked in. He was tall, clean, calm. He wore a suit that fit, shoes that shone, and a professional face. But his eyes carried a shadow that didn't belong to men who sleep 8 hours and trust their own reflections. He looked at the confession and went pale anyway. "That's not my handwriting," he said. "No," I agreed, "but it's got your name wearing it." Lasker's jaw tightened, summoners framing me. Ellen Pike's voice came out sharp. "Where is my brother?" Quill lifted a hand as if to calm a horse. "Miss Pike, we don't know." Ellen's eyes flashed. "You employ him, you hired him, you brought him into your accounts, and now he vanishes and you don't know." Lydia Crane spoke for the first time. Her voice was even without warmth or apology. "Mr. Pike was retained as an outside auditor. He was not an employee. We have made inquiries." "Inquiries?" Ellen repeated bitterly. How comforting. I leaned back in my chair and let my eyes move across the trio. Wolfe wasn't there, but if he had been, he would have sat silent and watched them with those heavy eyes until somebody betrayed themselves by choosing a word. So I did the next best thing. I asked the question Wolfe would ask, if he could be bothered to leave his chair. "Why my boss?" I said, nodding toward the confession and the key card we hadn't mentioned. "Why drag Nero Wolfe into this?" Quill's mouth went hard. "Because someone wants to hurt my company and use your employer as a weapon." Ellen snapped. "My brother isn't a weapon, he's a person." Quill didn't soften. "Then find him," he said. But do it without ruining me. The selfishness in that was so clean it was almost admirable, I said. That depends. If your company is clean, it won't ruin. If it's dirty, it deserves it. Clay Mercer's eyes narrowed. Watch your mouth. I smiled at him. I'm watching it. I'm also using it. Lydia Crane's pen moved once on her pad, a tiny note. She didn't look at the confession. She looked at me. That note, she said, is theatrical. A staged confession, a crude attempt to frighten and manipulate. We will not respond to extortion. Lovely, I said. Now tell that to the man holding Harold Pike. Quill's gaze fixed on Ellen. Miss Pike, this is a criminal matter. If you have information, you should go to the authorities. Ellen's mouth opened, then shut, because she knew how that would go. Delay, paperwork, questions, and a brother who might not have 48 hours. I said, we're here because Harold Pike told his sister to come to Wolfe. That means he expected trouble inside your walls, not outside them. Quill's eyes hardened. Then he was mistaken. Ben Lasker shifted slightly, and I caught it. He looked at Quill, then at Lydia Crane, then back at Quill. It was quick, but it was there. The look of a man who knows something, and is deciding whether saying it will get him killed. I filed it away. Scene 2. The button. I reached into my pocket and placed the brass Q button on the table. It landed with a soft clink, like a coin in a church plate. Clay Mercer's eyes flicked to it immediately. Lydia Crane's gaze dropped to it and held. Ben Lasker's face tightened. That's from our dock uniform, Mercer said too fast. So someone at your docks took Harold Pike, I said. Or left evidence to make it seem so, Lydia Crane replied. I almost smiled. Wolfe would have enjoyed her. She argued like a razor, no wasted motion, no dull edge. I slid the dock receipt across the table. Next, Quill read it, and his face went still. Too still. A man can control his expression, but he can't always control the microsecond when recognition hits. Quill's eyes froze for that fraction, then resumed their careful movement. Clay Mercer leaned forward, reading over Quill's shoulder. Lydia Crane didn't move. She waited, like a cat watching a mouse decide which hole to choose. Quill set the receipt down. Where did you get this? Storage unit, I said. Unit 9C at Kingside. Someone staged a little display for us. That receipt was part of it. Quill's voice remained controlled, but I saw his throat work once. This is a standard dock receipt. Stamped with your name, I said. And on the back, a riddle. I turned the receipt over and tapped the block letters with my finger. What sinks without water? Quill's eyes narrowed. He murmured, almost to himself. What sinks without water? Clay Mercer gave a short scoff. A business. Quill's eyes lifted to mine. Or a man. Ben Lasker's voice came out quietly. The first time he sounded like he was speaking his own thoughts instead of company policy. Harold found something in our audits. Ellen's breath hitched. What? Lasker's eyes moved to Quill. Quill did not answer. That was answer enough, and everyone at the table knew it. Lydia Crane's pen moved again. She said evenly, Mr. Pike found nothing that would justify criminal action. That's an odd thing to say, I told her. You don't know what he found, but you know it doesn't justify anything. Her eyes met mine. I know my company, do you? I asked. Clay Mercer's hand curled into a fist on the tabletop. This is going nowhere. It's going somewhere, I said. It's going straight into Wolfe's head, and then it will go where Wolfe sends it. Quill leaned back, and his posture changed slightly. Less defensive, more calculating. Mr. Goodwin, you work for Nero Wolfe. You're accustomed to dramatics. I am not. You own a shipping company, I said. Shipping is drama with bills of lading. Quill ignored that. If criminals are using my company's name and facilities to harm Mr. Pike, then I want him found quietly. Ellen's laugh was sharp and bitter. Quietly. Quill's gaze held hers. Yes, quietly, because panic will not help your brother, and public damage will not help anyone. Ellen's voice shook. It would help you. Quill didn't deny it. It would help my employees, their families, their livelihoods. You may dislike the word company, Miss Pike, but a company is made of people. Like my brother, she shot back. Quill's eyes hardened. Yes, like your brother, which is why I will cooperate, within reason. Within your comfort, I said. Quill's mouth tightened. Within law, I leaned forward slightly. Then start with this. Where was Harold Pike assigned? Which accounts? Which dock operations? Which names did he ask about? Lydia Crane answered, but her answer was crafted. Mr. Pike worked with our internal finance team. He had access to general ledgers, payments, and invoices. If you are asking for specific names, that can be provided through counsel. That's you, I said. Yes, she replied. And if I'm asking which dock receipt this is, I said, tapping the paper, you'll tell me through counsel too. Her expression didn't change. If you wish to make a formal request, Clay Mercer snorted. We're not handing over internal documents because a detective says so. I glanced at Ben Lasker. Security, you're the one whose name they used. You want to clear it? Start helping. Lasker's jaw worked. He looked at Quill. Quill said quietly, Ben. It was one syllable, but it carried weight. A leash word. Lasker's shoulders stiffened. He looked at Ellen Pike then, briefly, and something like regret crossed his eyes. Wolfe would have seen it and pinned it like a butterfly. I just stored it. Scene 3, exit the meeting ended the way such meetings do, with polite phrases that meant nothing and firm refusals that meant everything. Quill offered condolences again. Lydia Crane offered to coordinate through legal channels. Clay Mercer offered a glare like a door slam. Ben Lasker did not offer anything out loud, but he followed Ellen and me into the hall. Our guide had vanished, and the thick carpet muffled our footsteps like the building itself didn't want to hear what was said here. Lasker's voice dropped. Goodwin. I stopped, keeping Ellen beside me. Saul Panzer would be somewhere nearby. I didn't see him, which meant he was doing his job. Yes, I said. Lasker hesitated, eyes flicking toward the conference room door, as if it might open and swallow him. Tell Wolfe not to trust Quill's counsel. I raised an eyebrow. Why? His mouth tightened. Because she's the one who knows where the bodies go on paper. That sentence was ugly and useful. Wolfe would like it for both reasons. Before I could press, Clay Mercer appeared from around the corner, his broad shoulders filling the hallway like an obstruction. Lasker, Mercer said loudly. Back inside. Lasker's face went blank again. He looked at me once, then at Ellen Pike, and then he turned and walked away like a man stepping back into a cage he helped build. Ellen's voice came out thin. He knows something. He knows something. I agreed. The trick is figuring out whether he knows it because he's guilty or because he's scared. We rode the elevator down and stepped back into the lobby where the receptionist's curtained smile returned, as if nothing in the world ever happened beyond scheduling. Outside, the air felt colder than it had before, or maybe that was just the way trouble changes your skin. I scanned the street. The same dark sedan was there, parked across from the entrance, half a block down, waiting. Ellen saw it too, and her hand tightened on my sleeve. That car, I know, I said. We started walking. Not toward a cab stand, not straight. Wolfe had told me to observe everything, and part of observing is not walking like a target. The sedan pulled away from the curb. It followed. At first it kept distance, like a polite stalker. Then we turned a corner, and it turned too. We crossed with the light, and it crossed on the edge of the light, and I saw the driver's silhouette. Only a shape, hands at 10 and 2, like he had learned to drive from someone who loved rules. I steered Ellen toward a busier stretch where pedestrians crowded the sidewalk, and a street vendor argued with a customer over change. The sedan stayed back, then drifted forward again. Ellen's breath came fast. What do they want? Why are they? To remind us, I said, and to see what we do. We reached an intersection where the street opened up and the traffic thinned, just enough to make you feel exposed. I glanced left. The sedan had been behind us. Now it was closing, fast, not the gentle creep of surveillance anymore, The engine note rose. The front end dipped slightly as it surged, a hungry motion. Ellen gasped. "Archie, move," I barked, and shoved her hard toward the curb as the sedan accelerated straight at us, the driver committing to the line like he had decided the best message is a loud one. The car's grille filled my vision, and in the split second before impact, I saw the driver's face clearly through the windshield and recognized him. Chapter 4, Scene 1. The chase. If New York ever put up a monument to urgency, it would be a traffic light. Red, indifferent, and always in the way when you need it most. The dark sedan came at us out of its own patience, the engine note rising like a throat clearing for a speech. Ellen Pike's gasp hit my ear, and for a split second, the city thinned to a narrow strip of sidewalk, a slab of curb, and that grille bearing down with intent. I yanked Ellen sideways, so hard her purse strap bit into my palm. We hit the curb in a tangle, and the sedan's bumper skimmed the space we'd been occupying a heartbeat before. Through the windshield I got the face. Clay Mercer, broad neck, heavy brow, the same frown he'd worn in Quill Maritime's conference room, only now it had wheels under it. He wasn't looking at us the way a man looks at traffic. He was looking at us the way a man looks at a problem he intends to solve. Then he was past us, brakes squealing, swerving wide to avoid a delivery truck that objected to being used as scenery. The sedan fishtailed, straightened, and began to circle back. Ellen's nails dug into my sleeve. "He tried to... I noticed," I said. My voice came out calm by habit, which is handy when your insides are trying to relocate. "That's Clay Mercer, Quill's operations man," which means either Quill Maritime has decided to run pedestrian removal as a side business, or Mercer is freelance. Her eyes were wide. "Why would he?" "Because we ask questions," I said. "Because you're his problem, because Wolfe's name makes some men do stupid things faster." The sedan was coming around the block. It didn't have to hurry. In New York, a car has 1,000 ways to catch you if it wants to. I grabbed Ellen by the elbow and hustled her toward the street, where cabs rolled like yellow beetles with money on their minds. I raised my hand, snapped my fingers, and stepped out enough to make myself a hazard. A cab swerved, the driver leaning on the horn like it was a language. I yanked open the back door and shoved Ellen in. "Go!" I barked at the cabbie, and then I got in after her, slamming the door hard enough to jar my teeth. The cabbie twisted his head halfway around. "Where to?" "Anywhere that car isn't," I said, and pointed. "And step on it." He followed my finger and saw the sedan turning in, lining up. His eyes widened, and I learned something important. A New York cabbie will tolerate nearly anything, but he does not like being run off the road for free. He mashed the accelerator. The cab lurched forward, tires squealing, and the sedan surged after us, closing the gap like it had been paid by the foot. Traffic thickened ahead, 2 lanes that wanted to be one, a bus making a permanent statement, pedestrians stepping off curbs as if they were immortal. The cabbie threaded into it with the survival instincts of a cockroach with a mortgage. The sedan tried to follow, but it wasn't built for improvisation. It had the blunt purpose of a battering ram, and New York traffic makes battering rams look foolish. Mercer swerved left, tried to cut us off, but a delivery van occupied the space like a stubborn thought. The sedan clipped the van's side mirror with a crack and an angry honk that sounded personal. The cabbie laughed once, a short bark of triumph, and shoved us into a gap that shouldn't have existed. Ellen's hands were shaking in her lap, and she was staring out the rear window as if watching could keep the car from materializing. "They're going to kill him," she said, and her voice had that thin, raw edge that comes when fear has eaten everything else. "Not if they want Wolfe," I said. "Right now, they want us scared and obedient. They don't want your brother dead. They want your brother useful." "That's not better," she whispered. "No," I agreed. "It's just different." I checked my pocket. The dock receipt was there, folded, edges biting into my fingertips through the fabric. The brass button was wrapped in my handkerchief. Both of them felt heavier than they had a half hour ago, because now they had a man's face attached to them. Ellen said, "You recognized him." "Clay Mercer," I said. If that was really him driving. It was him, she insisted. I saw his face. Good, I said. Because if we're going to accuse someone of attempted murder, it helps if the witness isn't guessing. The cabbie cut sharply, swung through a light on the very edge of legal, and we lost the sedan behind a city bus that looked like it had been built to stop bullets and hope. I leaned forward. Take us to West 35th, and don't be subtle about it. The cabbie snorted. Subtle costs extra. Scene 2, back to Wolfe. Wolfe was in his office, exactly where he belonged, when we arrived, large, composed and irritated by the world's insistence on intruding. Fritz met us at the door with the calm of a man who has seen too many disasters to treat any of them as special. Ellen went straight to Wolfe's desk as if it were an altar. I found him, she blurted. Clay Mercer tried to run us down. Wolfe's eyes moved to her, then to me. He didn't react the way a normal man reacts to attempted homicide. He reacted the way Wolfe reacts to an inconsistency in a timetable. Explain, he said. I gave him the report, beginning with the sedan parked outside Quill Maritime, continuing through its decision to close the distance, and ending with Mercer's face behind the wheel. I didn't dramatize. Wolfe doesn't like dramatics unless he's using them. When I finished, Wolfe's eyes had sharpened to that special clarity. That means he is both angry and pleased. Angry because someone has tried to control his universe. Pleased because they have provided him with a concrete fact. Clay Mercer, he said slowly. Operations. Ellen's voice shook. He wanted to kill us. He wanted to frighten you. Wolfe corrected. If he had wanted you dead, you would be dead. That made Ellen stiffen. So, you're saying? I am saying, Wolfe replied, that criminals are often incompetent, but not that incompetent. Running down two people on a sidewalk in daylight invites attention. He wanted to demonstrate capacity, not commit. And he demonstrated, I said. My capacity for hating him. Wolfe ignored me. He looked at the dock receipt and the button as if they were chess pieces he had placed, and now wanted to move. Miss Pike, he said, tell me again about Ben Lasker. Ellen blinked, startled by the shift. He's Quill's security. He was mentioned in the confession. He's alive. Yes, Wolfe said. He is alive, and he is being accused of murder in a note staged with counterfeit blood. The purpose is to frame him, or scare him, I offered. Wolfe's mouth tightened. Fear is a tool, Archie. Framing is a plan. He turned his eyes to me. What did you observe of Lydia Crane? Legal counsel, I said. Neat, cold, sharp. Didn't touch the confession, didn't blink at the button. Talked like she was reading a prepared statement. Wolfe's eyelids lowered a fraction. Legal counsel is often the custodian of hidden mechanisms. Ellen leaned forward, desperate. Mr. Wolfe, please. My brother. Wolfe raised a hand, not unkindly but firmly. Miss Pike, emotion will not accelerate resolution. Facts will. She shut her mouth, but her eyes stayed on him, begging without words. Wolfe tapped the butcher paper confession with a pencil. Wolfe's pencil does what his fingers refuse to. This blood is theatrical. The confession is designed to accuse Lasker and implicate the docks. The message at the storage unit provides a deadline and an ultimatum. Therefore, the enemy is organized. Organized enough to kidnap an auditor, I said, and to keep him alive long enough to be useful. Wolfe nodded. And organized enough to exploit Quill Maritime's internal fears. Mr. Quill fears scandal. Mr. Mercer fears operational disruption. Miss Crane fears legal exposure. Ellen's voice came small. And what do they fear about Harold? Wolfe looked at her for a moment, and when he spoke his tone was precise. They fear what he knows, or what he possesses, I said. We didn't get the rest of his sentence. Don't trust. That's a nice hook. It is a deliberate hook, Wolfe agreed, designed to lead us. He picked up the dock receipt with the pencil, the way a man might pick up a dead insect, and turned it so he could read the riddle without touching it. What sinks without water? Wolfe read aloud. A ledger, I said. A reputation. Wolfe's mouth compressed. A shipment. That one word changed the air in the room. It wasn't that Wolfe had introduced something new. It was that he had introduced something that fit too well. Ellen looked between us. A shipment. Wolfe's gaze stayed on the receipt. Quill Maritime is a shipping concern. Their business is the movement of goods. If an item sinks without water, it disappears without an accident at sea. It vanishes on paper, in a warehouse, in a container, in a ledger entry that was never made. Smuggling wears a suit now. It doesn't arrive in burlap sacks under moonlight. It arrives with invoices and stamps and counsel, I said. So Harold Pike found a shipment that shouldn't exist, or a shipment that existed and shouldn't. Wolfe nodded once. And the criminals want me to find what they want. Ellen's voice rose, sharp. They want you to find what they want. What about finding my brother? Wolfe's gaze fixed on her, and it was not gentle, but it was honest. Finding what they want may be the only way to secure your brother alive. Do you understand? Ellen swallowed. Number, but I'll accept it if it works. Wolfe leaned back. Good. He turned to me. Archie, call Mr. Durkin. Have him observe. Quill Maritime's docks this evening, not to intervene, to watch. On it, I said, reaching for the phone. And call Saul Panzer, Wolfe added. Tell him to come here. Saul's already doing his shadow act, I said, but I'll summon him anyway. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. Also, Archie, I will speak with Inspector Kramer. That startled Ellen. The police, but they said no police. Wolfe's lips curled in faint disdain. Criminals often issue instructions. It is not mandatory that we obey them. I made the calls. Durkin grunted assent, which is his version of a promise. Saul said he would arrive shortly, which is Saul's way of appearing before you finish hanging up. Wolfe called Kramer, and this time he gave him more. Still not everything, because Wolfe treats information the way a chef treats seasoning. But enough to make Kramer smell meat. I could hear Kramer's bark through the receiver. Wolfe, if you've been sitting on. Wolfe's reply was calm. Inspector, I am not sitting on anything. I am merely informing you that there is now an attempted assault and probable kidnapping connected to Quill Maritime. You may wish to be prepared to act. Kramer's voice sharpened. Prepared? I'm coming over, Wolfe said. If you insist, and hung up. Ellen stared at him. He's coming here. Yes, Wolfe said. He will be annoyed. That is his natural state. Do not be intimidated. Ellen gave a bleak little smile. I'm beyond intimidated. Wolfe's eyes softened a fraction. Then you are closer to usefulness. I sat down at my desk, because if there is anything that makes danger feel manageable, it's paperwork. I began listing names and positions at Quill Maritime. Martin Quill, Clay Mercer, Lydia Crane, Ben Lasker. I added Harold Pike and Ellen Pike. I added unknown amused voice. I added green tape. Then the doorbell rang, scene 3. The first real body, Inspector Kramer, arrived, like a man who had been told the city was on fire and suspected Wolfe had lit it. He came up the stairs 2 at a time, his hat in his hand, his face already angry. What the hell are you doing, Wolfe? He demanded the moment he hit the office. You call me with half a story and expect. Wolfe held up a hand. Inspector, control your volume. There is a lady present. Kramer saw Ellen Pike then and reined in his anger, just enough to be civil. He nodded at her, briskly, and then glared at me. Goodwin, he said, as if my existence were a personal insult. What have you got? I started to answer, but Wolfe cut in. Inspector, there is a missing man. There is a confession in false blood bearing the name of Ben Lasker. There is evidence connecting the matter to Quill Maritime's docks. There has been an attempt to injure my assistant and Miss Pike in the street. Kramer's eyes narrowed. And you think Quill Maritime is involved? I think, Wolfe said, that someone wants you to think Quill Maritime is involved. That is not the same statement. Kramer grunted. He turned to me. You saw who was driving? Yes, I said, Clay Mercer. Kramer's eyebrows rose. You're sure? Sure enough to bet your pension, I said. Ellen's voice was tight. He tried to kill us. Kramer's gaze flicked to her. then back to Wolfe. "And you didn't come to me first?" Wolfe's mouth tightened. "Inspector, you are always first in your own estimation." Kramer swore under his breath. "All right, you've got my attention now. Give me names, details. Where was this storage unit?" The door opened and Fritz stepped in, and Fritz's face, which usually could watch a man bleed without spilling a drop of coffee, was grave. "Mr. Wolfe," Fritz said quietly, "there is a man at the door. He has collapsed." Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "Collapsed?" "Yes, sir." Kramer's head snapped around. "Collapsed how?" Fritz's voice stayed steady. "He is not moving." That changed everything. A threatened man is a theory, a dead man is a fact, and facts draw the police like blood draws flies. Wolfe rose from his chair with visible reluctance, as if his knees objected to being employed for such vulgarity. He moved toward the door. Kramer pushed past me. Already reaching for his badge by reflex, Ellen Pike started to follow, but Wolfe's voice stopped her. "Miss Pike, stay." She froze, hands trembling. I followed Wolfe and Kramer downstairs, Fritz behind us. The front door was open. Cold air slid in. On the brownstone steps lay a man in a dock jacket with Quill Maritime's insignia stitched on the chest. He was sprawled awkwardly, as if he had tried to climb and failed, halfway through his own urgency. His face was gray. His eyes were open. Kramer crouched, 2 fingers at the man's neck. He held them there a moment, then stood. "Dead," he said flatly. Wolfe's gaze went to the man's chest. Pinned there with a safety pin was another brass Q button, this one smeared with something dark that looked a lot more like real blood than the theatrical stuff on Wolfe's desk. A note was pinned beneath the button. I leaned closer and read it. 47 hours, Kramer swore, loud and heartfelt. Jesus. Wolfe looked at the dead man for a long moment, and when he spoke his voice was very quiet. Now they have provided sincerity. My stomach tightened. I have seen enough corpses to know they all look the same in one way. They don't care what you do next. But this one had been delivered to Wolfe's doorstep like a message in meat. Ellen Pike appeared in the doorway behind us despite Wolfe's order, drawn by a force stronger than obedience. The moment she saw the body, she covered her mouth, and the sound she made was not words. Kramer turned on her, not unkindly but firmly. "Miss, get inside." She backed away, shaking. Kramer looked at Fritz. "Call it in." Fritz's eyes flicked to Wolfe. Wolfe said, "Do so." Fritz went to the phone. Kramer began barking instructions to no one in particular. Because that is what police do when a body appears. They make the air fill with procedure so it doesn't fill with panic. I crouched near the corpse, careful not to touch anything. My eyes went to the safety pin. Something caught there. Thread snagged in the clasp, bright and unmistakable, even in the dim winter light. A green fiber, green, like the tape on the small box in the storage unit. I straightened and looked up at Wolfe. "Boss." Wolfe's eyes came to me. I nodded toward the pin. Green fiber, same color as the tape. Wolfe's gaze sharpened. He leaned only slightly. Wolfe does not bend for bodies, but his eyes took in the detail with the hunger of a mind that loves connections. Kramer followed my look. "What's that?" "Evidence," I said. "Or a signature." Kramer's mouth hardened. "You touch it." "No," I said. "I'm not that dumb." Wolfe murmured, almost to himself, a deliberate linkage. Kramer glanced from Wolfe to me. A deliberate linkage to what? Wolfe didn't answer him. Wolfe seldom answers questions. He didn't ask. Police sirens began to sound in the distance, growing closer, and the quiet dignity of Wolfe's brownstone started to fracture under the weight of official intrusion. Wolfe turned his head slightly toward me, eyes hard. "Archie," he said, "this corpse is not merely a threat. It is a marker, 47 hours. I nodded. "They're counting down." "Yes," Wolfe said, "and they have chosen my doorstep as their clock. Inspector, you will have your men do what they must. But you will also, for once, refrain from blundering. Kramer bristled. Blundering? A man is dead on your steps, and another may die elsewhere, Wolfe said. If you wish to save Harold Pike, you will allow me to think. Kramer's jaw worked. He looked down at the dead man again, then back at Wolfe. All right, he said, and it cost him. Think, but don't keep me in the dark. Wolfe's mouth tightened. Inspector, darkness is sometimes protective. Kramer swore again, softer this time, and turned to meet the arriving uniforms. I stepped back into the house, and Ellen Pike was there, pale and shaking, eyes shining with terror. That's a Quill dock jacket, she whispered. They killed him. Wolfe's voice came from behind me, low and controlled. They killed him to speak to me. Ellen's eyes snapped to Wolfe, and my brother. Wolfe held her gaze. We have 47 hours, he said. And now, at last, we have a crime that will force movement, on their part as well as ours. I watched Wolfe's face. He was angry. Wolfe's anger is not loud, it is precise. Someone had violated his office, threatened his assistant, attempted murder in the street, and now left a corpse on his steps like a calling card. Wolfe did not forgive such discourtesy. He turned slightly toward the stairs, toward his office, toward the safe center of his world. Archie, he said, assemble all that we have, every note, every object, every name. Already started, I said. Good, Wolfe replied. Because now we will reverse the performance. He climbed the stairs heavy and resolute, and I followed, thinking about the green fiber caught in the pin and the way Clay Mercer's face had looked behind the wheel, focused, committed, not improvising. Smuggling wears a suit now, and so does murder. And somewhere, in the remaining hours, Harold Pike was running out of breath while men like Mercer ran out of patience. When I reached the office, the phone on my desk was ringing. Chapter 5. Scene 1. The green fiber. The phone on my desk rang. The instant I hit the office, like it had been waiting to pounce, I snatched it up. Goodwin, a voice said. Stop. Then it stopped, hung up so clean it might as well have been a knife cut. I stared at the receiver, then set it down gently, because it had become a habit in the last 24 hours not to provoke objects. Across the room, Wolfe sat in his chair, big and immovable, looking as if he had never in his life been startled by a ringing phone. They are attentive, he said. They're nosy, I said. There's a difference. Attentive people take notes. Nosy people get shot. Wolfe's eyes flicked briefly to my face, taking inventory the way he does when he thinks I've been careless. You are uninjured. Only in spirit, I said. So far. Inspector Kramer was downstairs with uniforms and the medical examiner, making the front hall of Wolfe's brownstone sound like a precinct house. Wolfe had tolerated it with the patience of a man tolerating smoke in his dining room. He had also quietly taken control of what he could. Fritz had served coffee with such calm efficiency that even the policeman softened, and Wolfe had watched the procedure with that heavy, disapproving gaze that makes men stand straighter without knowing why. Now we were back in the office, away from the boots and the clipped voices, and Wolfe's mind had already moved past the indignity of a corpse on his steps to the useful residue it left. The green fiber, he said. I nodded, caught in the safety pin. Bright green, same shade as the tape on the storage box. Wolfe's lips pressed together. He hated repetition unless it came from a symphony. We will have it examined. How? I asked. You don't touch anything, and you don't leave the house. Wolfe's eyes hardened. Do not be ridiculous, Archie. I am capable of sending an object to be examined. Sure, I said. By mail. Or do you want me to throw it like a paper airplane toward the lab? Wolfe ignored that. He tapped his pencil on his blotter, once, twice, then pointed to the small evidence envelope I had brought up from the hall, the one Kramer's men had grudgingly allowed me to collect under their noses. Put it there, he said. I placed the envelope on the corner of his desk. Wolfe did not touch it. He leaned a fraction, peered, and then sat back again, as if he had been forced too close to a sewer. He reached for the telephone, dialed a number from memory, and waited. When the line answered, he said, "Mr. Sweeney, Nero Wolfe, I have an urgent need for the analysis of a textile fiber. Yes, a green synthetic, possibly nylon. You will send a courier to collect it from my residence, immediately." He listened. "Number, you will not ask questions. You will deliver results. That is your function." He hung up. I blinked. "Who's Sweeney?" "A competent man in the garment trade," Wolfe said. "He has microscopes and an incentive to remain useful." I whistled softly. "All right. We're sending the fiber to the garment district. Better than letting it sit in Kramer's lab while he lectures it." Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "Inspector Kramer's lab is competent. Inspector Kramer is not. That's the nicest thing you've ever said about his lab." Wolfe shifted in his chair. "Now, the dead man." "Ray Keller," I said. "Doc, jacket, Quill insignia. Do you know him?" "No," I said, "but his pockets may have been more talkative than his mouth." Wolfe's eyes held mine. "Continue." I had already gone through Keller's pockets under Kramer's watchful glare, using the polite excuse that it was my doorstep too, and finding an ID wallet with a driver's license. Raymond Keller, address in Queens, some cash, a ring of keys that didn't look like they fit any lock of ours, and a matchbook. I took the matchbook out of my pocket and set it on the desk near the envelope. "The Anchor Line," it said in block letters, with a crude little drawing of a ship's wheel. Wolfe looked at it as if it were a clue and an insult at the same time. "A bar. Bars are where docs keep their secrets when they're off duty," I said. "Keller was there recently enough to take a matchbook. Either he was thirsty or he was meeting someone, and now he is dead," Wolfe said. Therefore, the meeting was significant. Ellen Pike had been downstairs, confined to the back room by Fritz and Kramer's firm voice. She had seen enough blood in one afternoon to last her a lifetime. I felt the weight of that on my ribs like a bruise. Wolfe said, "Archie, you will go to the Anchor Line." "Of course," I said. "I'll go drink with the docs, ask questions, get punched, come home, and you'll tell me it was inconvenient." Wolfe's gaze sharpened. "Do not be childish. Then stop assigning me to childish places." He ignored me the way he always does when I'm right, but annoying. "You will not go alone, Saul?" I asked. "No," Wolfe said. "Mr. Panzer will remain available. You will take Mr. Durkin." That surprised me. Durkin was muscle and experience, but he was also visible. Saul is a shadow. Durkin is a lamppost. Wolfe saw my hesitation. "They have attempted to strike you openly. I will not permit you to be struck without reciprocation." That, from Wolfe, was practically a lullaby, I said. "All right, I'll take Durkin and Ellen." "Miss Pike will remain here," Wolfe said. "She will be safer. She will also be available if we require additional information." Available. That's how Wolfe referred to a frightened sister, but he had kept her in the house, and that meant something. I pocketed the matchbook again and headed for the stairs. "Behind me," Wolfe spoke, and his voice had that controlled edge that meant he had decided something and would not be moved. "Archie, speak to people until they forget to lie. Bring me names." "Yes, sir," I said. "And if they remember to lie?" Wolfe's tone was dry. "Then persuade them to forget again." Scene 2, the Anchor Line. The Anchor Line was not in the kind of neighborhood where you stroll for pleasure. It sat 2 blocks from the river, in a squat building that had probably been respectable once and had given up when the world stopped caring. Inside, it was dim and loud, soaked in smoke that clung to your clothes like gossip. A jukebox in the corner was trying to drown out the world with something that had too much brass and not enough dignity. The floor was sticky in places, and the tables had the scars of arguments settled with fists. Durkin came in behind me, broad shoulders filling the doorway for a second before he stepped aside. He wore his usual expression, patient, faintly irritated, and ready. "Nice place," he muttered. "It's romantic," I said. "If your idea of romance is tetanus." We took stools at the bar. The bartender was a thick man with forearms like dock ropes and eyes that had learned to watch without staring. He looked at me, then at Durkin, then at my suit, and you could see him deciding whether we were trouble or money. He chose caution. That was smart. "What'll it be?" he asked. "Coffee," I said. He stared at me like I had requested a violin concerto. "We got beer." "I know," I said. "I can smell it, coffee anyway." He poured it from a pot that looked like it had survived wars. I didn't kid myself about the flavor. I was buying time and space, not gourmet. I took a photo from my pocket, the one Kramer's men had taken of Keller's face for identification, and slid it across the bar. "You know him?" I asked. The bartender's eyes went cautious immediately, like shutters dropping. Number that was too quick. When men don't know, they hesitate. When men know and don't want to say, they answer like a reflex. Durkin shifted slightly on his stool, a small movement that made his presence bigger. The bartender noticed and swallowed. I smiled pleasantly. "That's Raymond Keller. He died on my boss's doorstep this afternoon. If you don't know him, you're lucky. If you do know him, you might want to be luckier." The bartender's jaw tightened. "He was here." "Yesterday?" I asked. He nodded, eyes flicking toward the room as if the room might testify. "Last night late, kept looking at the door like it owed him money," I prompted. That got a tiny flicker in his eyes. Surprise that I'd guessed it, or fear that I knew more than I should. "Yeah," he admitted, like he was waiting. "Who for?" I asked. The bartender shrugged, but it wasn't casual, it was protective. "A guy in a suit." "What kind of suit?" I asked. "Expensive, cheap, loud, quiet." The bartender's mouth twisted. "Quiet." He didn't drink, just sat, watched. "A saint," I said. "And the lady?" His eyes darted. "Lady." "You said guy in a suit," I said. Somebody usually brings a lady when they want the story to look less like a transaction. Durkin let out a low grunt, like a man acknowledging a good point. The bartender hesitated, then nodded, reluctantly. "Yeah, lady too, gray coat," didn't smile. Ellen Pike's boss's legal counsel wore gray, like it was a uniform gray coat. Lydia Crane, maybe, or someone who wanted me thinking that. I said, "Did Keller talk to them?" The bartender's jaw set, not where I could hear. "That's fine," I said. "You don't get paid to hear. You get paid to pour." He watched me for a moment, then leaned in slightly. "You a cop?" "No," I said. "If I were, I'd be asking the same questions but louder and with a badge." He nodded. That made sense to him. I took a sip of the coffee. It tasted like regret and burnt beans. "Appropriate." A man at the far end of the bar spoke without turning his head. "Keller talked too much." His voice was rough, not loud, but it carried. The room didn't hush. It didn't have to. Men like that don't need silence to be heard. I slid off my stool and moved down the bar, taking the seat beside him, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Durkin stayed where he was, watching the room in a way that made men reconsider standing too close. The speaker finally turned his head. Doc tough. Scar on the chin, eyes like stones that had been rolled smooth by hard use. His hair was cut short, and his hands were thick, with the faint grime under the nails that never fully leaves men who work with ropes and crates. He didn't offer a hand. "Smart man, you knew Keller," I said. He gave a short grunt. "Name's Hank Rudd." "Archie Goodwin," I said. "I work for Nero Wolfe." His eyes narrowed slightly. Not fear, interest. "Wolfe's name does that to people who have heard it in places where newspapers don't reach." "That's poetic," I said. "Who filled his?" Rudd's lips twitched, almost a smile, but it died quickly. "Not me." "Never said it was," I replied. "But you did say he talked too much." "What did he talk about?" Rudd stared into his beer for a long moment, then spoke as if he were tasting each word first. He said an auditor found a double rap. I blinked. "Double rap?" Rudd snorted softly. "You ain't docs, are you?" "Only when someone's trying to drown me there," I said. Rudd tilted his head. "Double rap means a shipment wrapped one way on paper, and another way in real life. Clean outside, dirty inside. That was the whole story in a nutshell, and it was a nutshell big enough to hold Quill Maritime, a missing auditor, and a corpse on Wolfe's steps. I kept my face casual. So, a shipment looks like machine parts, but it's really, what? Rudd's eyes slid away. Whatever pays. Who runs the double wrap? I asked. Rudd's gaze moved toward the back of the bar, toward a dark hallway that probably led to a storeroom and a couple of exits, no one advertised. Ask the tape, he said. I stared at him. The tape. He took a swallow of beer. Green tape. They seal things with it. Means it's special. Means don't ask. Don't ask, I echoed. Then why are you telling me? Rudd's eyes came back to mine. Hard. Because Keller's dead. Because if they're leaving bodies on fancy steps, it ain't staying at the docks. It's coming down the line. I nodded slowly. That was honest. Fear. Not cowardly fear. Practical. You see Lydia Crane last night? I asked. He frowned. Who? Grey coat. Didn't smile, I said. Lawyer type. Rudd's eyes flicked. Could have been. Lady didn't talk much. Guy in the suit, I said. Clay Mercer. Rudd shook his head. Mercer, don't come here. Mercer got his own places. This guy was cleaner. Clean, quiet, watching like. The amused voice on the recorder. I said, did Keller say where the double wrap happened? Rudd hesitated. His jaw flexed. He said Pier 7 was hot. Pier 7, the receipt had a pier designation, but the scribble wasn't clear. Wolfe would like a number. I pressed gently. Pier 7 at Quill, Rudd nodded once. That's what he said. I let that sit, then I said. Keller waited for the clean guy and the grey coat lady. What did they want from him? Rudd's eyes went distant for a second. He said they wanted the paper. The real paper. The audit, I asked. Rudd's mouth tightened. Maybe, he didn't say. He just said the auditor, Pike, had copies, and Keller knew where. That made my ribs feel tighter. Harold Pike had made copies. That was smart. That was also the kind of smart that gets you kidnapped, I said. Where would Keller know where Pike hid copies? Rudd shrugged. Docks are small. People talk. Keller heard things. And then he talked too much, I said. Rudd's eyes sharpened. Yeah. I sat back, letting my coffee cool into something even worse. Hank, you're doing me a favor? Rudd looked at me as if weighing whether favors were worth the cost. You Wolfe's boy. I'm Wolfe's employee, I said. There's a difference, he grunted. Wolfe finds people. He tries, I said, and right now I'm trying to find a missing auditor who might still be breathing. Rudd's jaw set. Then don't get yourself dead in the alley. That sounded like advice, and also like a warning with a timestamp. I slid a bill across the bar toward him. Not a bribe, more like a thank. You that wouldn't insult him. He didn't touch it right away. He just looked at it, then at me. Green tape, he said again. You find where it comes from. You find who touches it. Funny, I said. I was just thinking that. Scene 3. Trouble in the alley. Durkin and I left the anchor line with the smell of smoke in our coats and the taste of burnt coffee in my mouth. The evening outside was damp and grey. New York in winter doesn't do drama, it does endurance. We hadn't gone half a block when Durkin's voice dropped. We got company. I didn't turn my head. 1 or 2. 2, Durkin said. Behind fast. That was all the warning I got. They came out of a narrow alley, like they had been waiting for the cue. 2 men, both wearing dark jackets, both moving with that eager certainty of people who think a beating is simple work, fast hands, slow brains. The first one reached for me. Durkin stepped in and caught his wrist in one big paw, twisting just enough to make the man's knees wobble. The second man went for Durkin, which was like going for a lamppost. I didn't stand there admiring it. I drove my elbow into the first man's ribs, felt the give, heard the grunt. He bent, and I used his bent posture to introduce his face to the brick wall. Durkin was dealing with the second man efficiently, one shove, a block, and then a short punch that looked almost lazy and still landed like a hammer. The first man came at me again. Stubborn, swinging wild, I ducked, stepped inside, and hit him where the jaw meets the hinge. He went down hard, eyes blinking in confusion, as if he couldn't understand why his plan had stopped working. The second man tried to run. Durkin's hand shot out and grabbed the back of his collar, yanking him back like a man retrieving a dog that doesn't know its name. The runner stumbled, fell to his knees, and Durkin leaned in. "Who sent you?" Durkin growled. The man's eyes were wide with panic. "Nobody," he gasped. Durkin tightened his grip slightly. "Try again." The man's gaze darted to me. "A guy," he blurted. "A guy in a suit. Said to scare you. Said you were snooping." I crouched, breathing hard, and looked at him. "Describe him." The man swallowed. "Clean, quiet. Didn't smile. Pay off the docks. Gloves clean, quiet. Watching." I felt cold settle in my stomach. "Did he give a name?" I asked. The man shook his head fast. "Number, just money. Said don't hurt you too bad. Just make you stop." Durkin snorted. "Nice of him." I stood and patted the man down quickly, because if you're going to get jumped, you might as well get paid in information. His pockets held a few bills, a cheap lighter, and, when my fingers hit it, I felt the slick, familiar texture, tape, not a roll. A torn strip, folded once, stuffed in his pocket like an afterthought. Green, I unfolded it. It was the same shade as the tape on the storage box. That shade wasn't common. It wasn't the green of hardware. Store tape. It was brighter, cleaner, like it had been chosen to be noticed. On the tape was a fingerprint smudge. And beneath that smudge, faintly, was an imprint of printed letters, reversed, as if the tape had been slapped over a label and peeled off later. The ink had transferred just enough to leave a ghost. I held it up to the streetlight and squinted. Not enough to read fully, but enough to see there were letters, and enough to know Wolfe would see more than I did. I looked at the man on his knees. "Where'd you get this tape?" He shook his head. "Guy gave it, said if we got in trouble we could show it. Like a sign." "A sign of what?" I asked. He swallowed. "That we was working for him, so nobody would. So nobody would kill you for freelancing." I finished. "That's charming." Durkin gave his collar one last hard shake. "Get out of here." The man scrambled up and ran, not looking back. The other one was already staggering away, one hand on his jaw, trying to remember his dignity and failing. I stood there a moment, breathing, holding the tape. The street was quiet again, but the quiet felt staged. Durkin looked at my face. "You all right?" "Sure," I said. "I only got a light souvenir." I pocketed the tape carefully, as if it were brittle. We headed back to the brownstone. By the time we reached West 35th, my bruises had warmed into a dull throb, and my mood had improved the way it always does when I have something tangible to bring Wolfe. Wolfe was waiting in the office, eyes sharp, posture unchanged, as if time had been running around him and not through him. Saul Panzer was there too, sitting quietly in the red chair by the plant room door, looking like he belonged. Saul always looks like he belongs, even in a jail cell. Wolfe's gaze went immediately to my face. "You have been struck." "Only a little," I said. "Consider it a tip." Wolfe's nostrils flared. He did not approve of anyone touching his property, and I'm as close as Wolfe gets to property. "What did you learn, Archie?" he demanded. I laid it out. Keller at the anchor line, waiting, the clean man and the grey coat woman, Hank Rudd, double wrap, Pier 7, the green tape as a marker, the two thugs in the alley, and the strip of tape. I placed the tape on the edge of Wolfe's desk, not touching his blotter. Wolfe leaned in, eyes narrowing, and stared at it as if it were a rare insect. "That someone's doing a double wrap," I said. "And the tape is the signature." Wolfe nodded once. "Slow. Then we locate the tape's origin." "And Harold Pike?" I asked. Wolfe's eyes went distant for a moment, not soft. Wolfe doesn't soften easily. But focused. "Aliv," he said. For now, because the tape is more valuable than a corpse. Ellen Pike came into the doorway then, drawn by the sound of voices. Her face was pale, her eyes wide, but she held herself upright. More valuable, she repeated faintly. My brother is valuable. Wolfe looked at her. To them, yes, to you, he is priceless. Do not confuse the categories. Ellen swallowed, eyes shining. Can you save him? Wolfe's voice was quiet. If you will permit me to think without interruption, I will attempt it. She nodded quickly, as if she would have nodded to anything that sounded like hope. At that moment, the phone rang. My phone, of course. I picked it up. Goodwin. The familiar, amused voice came through, smooth as oil. Mr. Goodwin. My spine tightened. You again? Yes, he said. I congratulate you on your evening stroll. The anchor line is quite lively. I kept my tone light. You should go sometime. They serve coffee that could strip paint. A soft chuckle. Mr. Wolfe has 46 hours now. He should stop playing with bars and start playing with money. I felt my grip tighten on the receiver. What money? The amused voice paused, just long enough to make the pause feel deliberate. The money that sinks without water. Then the line went dead. I lowered the receiver slowly and stared at it. Wolfe's eyes were on me. Repeat exactly. I did. When I finished, Wolfe sat very still. His face was calm, but I knew that calm, it was the calm of a man who has just been challenged in his own house and has decided to answer in full. He spoke, not to me, but almost to himself. Money that sinks without water. Saul Panzer's voice was quiet from the red chair. That means hidden funds, off-book payments, a phantom account. Wolfe's eyes stayed fixed on the strip of green tape, or a particular shipment that exists only to move money. I felt the room tilt slightly, as if a door had opened in Wolfe's mind, and I was seeing the first sliver of what was behind it. Ellen Pike's voice trembled. What does it mean? Wolfe looked up at her, and his gaze was heavy and certain. It means, he said, that they are no longer merely threatening us. They are instructing us. And we're going to ignore the instructions, I said. Wolfe's mouth tightened. On the contrary, Archie, we will follow them. I blinked. We will follow them, Wolfe repeated. In the manner of a man following a thief down an alley with a lantern and a club. He reached for the phone and began dialing. Who are you calling? I asked. Wolfe's eyes lifted to mine. Mr. Quill. That made Ellen Pike stiffen. Quill, he won't. Wolfe cut her off with a small lift of his hand. He will listen. He has been reminded that bodies can appear on doorsteps. He will now appreciate that cooperation is a form of self-preservation. He paused, listening to the ring on the other end, his face unreadable. I watched Wolfe's fingers, clean, controlled, hovering near the receiver, and I watched the strip of green tape on his desk, with its ghost letters and fingerprint smudge. The clock was ticking down in hours, and Wolfe was about to pull Martin Quill into his orbit. Whether Quill wanted it or not. The line picked up, and Wolfe said calmly, Mr. Quill, this is Nero Wolfe. We must speak tonight. Chapter 6, Scene 1, The Origin of the Tape. When the amused voice on the phone mentioned money, it was like someone had snapped on a light in a warehouse. I didn't know I had. Wolfe had already suspected shipments, smuggling, ledger tricks, but the green tape, bright, deliberate, wasn't just a flourish. It was a control point. Packaging isn't romantic, it's profitable, especially if you control the labels that control the truth. Wolfe had me spread everything across my desk. The butcher paper confession, the dock receipt, the brass cue buttons, the recorder, the strip of green tape with its smudged fingerprint and ghost letters, and the matchbook from the anchor line. It looked like a child's attempt at a shrine. Except the gods we were dealing with were accountants and criminals. Saul Panzer sat quietly, watching Ellen Pike hovered at the edge of the room, trying not to breathe too loudly, as if sound might break the delicate structure of Wolfe's thinking. Wolfe refused to touch the tape, but he studied it with the intensity of a man reading the fine print on a contract that might cost him his life. "Archie," he said, read the faint imprint again. I held the tape under the lamp, angled it, squinted until my eyes watered. "It's not a full word," I said. "Just maybe ha or hal, and then something like seal. Could be seal, because I'm thinking seal." Wolfe's mouth tightened. "Stop thinking. Observe." "That is observing," I protested. "My observing includes thinking." Wolfe ignored me and looked at Saul. "Mr. Panzer." Saul nodded, as if he'd been expecting to be used. "I can make inquiries with vendors who supply Quill Maritime, packaging, labels, tape. If the tape is unusual, it will have a source." Wolfe's eyelids lowered. "Do so." Saul made 2 calls quietly from my desk phone. He spoke in that low, polite tone that makes people want to answer him, and he asked questions in a way that sounded like a favor to the person answering. "Saul could ask for your bank account number and make you feel honored." Within an hour, he had a name. "Harbor Seal Packaging," Saul said. "Small outfit. Supplies industrial tape, labels, shrink wrap. Quill Maritime is one of their biggest clients. Their green tape is a specialty line rare enough to track." Wolfe's eyes sharpened. "Then we go to Harbor Seal," Ellen Pike said softly. "We." Wolfe looked at her. "Not you," I said. "I'll go." "You will go now, and you will not, under any circumstances, allow yourself to be arrested." I lifted my brows. "That's a nice change from don't die." Wolfe's lips twitched. "It is a more realistic concern." Scene 2, Harbor Seal Packaging. Harbor Seal Packaging was in a warehouse block that had more delivery vans than trees. The air smelled of cardboard, plastic, and the particular despair of industrial zones. A hand-painted sign hung crookedly above a roll-up door, as if the building couldn't quite stand to advertise what went on inside. A man met me near the front office door, and he had the look of someone who sold things for a living, soft hands, sharp eyes, a smile designed to persuade. His suit wasn't Quill Maritime polished, but it was clean enough to show he didn't spend his days loading pallets. "Mr. Goodwin," he said. That was the first bad sign. I hadn't introduced myself yet. "You're quick," I said. "Either you're psychic or you've been warned." He let the smile widen a fraction, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Drew Holden, owner. We get a lot of inquiries from various parties. Your employer has quite a reputation." "That makes one of us," I said. "Show me your green tape." Holden chuckled politely, as if I'd asked to see his wife. "We sell tape, Mr. Goodwin. It's not contraband." "Not unless it's used to wrap lies," I said. His smile thinned. "Our biggest client is Quill Maritime." "Then you're going to hate this," I said, and took out the torn strip of green tape, unfolded it carefully, and held it up. His eyes flickered, tinny, quick, involuntary. The flicker told me he knew it, and wished he didn't. "That's ours," he admitted, "but lots of people buy it." "Sure," I said, "and lots of people buy rope. Doesn't mean I want my name on it when it's used." Holden lifted his palm slightly. "I can't control what customers do once they leave." "No," I said, "but you can tell me who bought a lot recently." His eyes narrowed. Just a fraction, the way a man narrows his eyes when he's deciding whether to lie, and if so, how much. "I'm not sure we can." "I'm sure you can," I said pleasantly. "Unless you prefer that I stand in your lobby and describe a dead dock worker to every customer who walks in." Quill Maritime's name is already bleeding on my boss's steps. Holden swallowed. The salesman in him shifted into the survivor. He hesitated one beat too long, then said, "Clay Mercer." That name again. It was circling everything like a vulture. I let my face remain neutral, but inside I felt the satisfaction of a puzzle piece sliding into place and the dread of seeing what picture it made. "Mercer bought it personally?" I asked. "He picked up an order," Holden said. "Large, asked for the green, and labels." I asked. "Duplicate labels." Holden's jaw tightened. "We do labels. We do a lot of labels." "Don't be coy," I said. "Your tape is a specialty line. Your labels could be specialty too. Someone wants shipments to look clean outside and dirty inside. Double wrap that requires paper and packaging that match the story. Holden's smile was gone now. Mr. Goodwin, you're implying my business is part of something criminal. If your business is part of something criminal, I said, it's because someone used it that way, unless you're volunteering to be the brains. His eyes held mine. I sell packaging. You sell reality, I said. People believe what's wrapped properly. Before he could answer, a crash came from the back, metal on concrete, and a voice shouted, "Boss, police are here." Holden's head snapped toward the warehouse floor, his face drained slightly. Another bad sign. Surprise. If he'd called the cops on me, he wouldn't look surprised. I turned. 2 uniformed cops came in through the back office doorway, followed by Lydia Crane. She walked as if the building belonged to her. Gray suit, gray coat draped over one arm, hair neat, face calm as polished stone. She did not look like a woman who ever ran. She looked like a woman who made other people run. Her eyes met mine, and there was no surprise there at all, only confirmation. "Archie Goodwin," she said, "you're trespassing on private property and harassing my vendor." I grinned. "Counsel, you travel fast." Her voice was level. "So does litigation." One of the cops cleared his throat. "Sir, the owner says you're causing a disturbance." Holden's eyes flicked to the cop, then to Lydia Crane, then away, as if he didn't want to be caught looking at the person who held his leash. I said to the cop, "I'm leaving." Disturbance resolved. Nobody had to write a report. Lydia Crane stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume. Clean, expensive, calculated. She leaned in as if offering advice. "Tell Mr. Wolfe to stop," she murmured. "He's interfering in corporate matters." I kept my voice low too. "Tell your client to stop kidnapping auditors." Her expression didn't change. "You have no proof." I shrugged. "Not yet." The cop looked between us, uncertain, recognizing the tone that meant people with money were talking, and he was scenery. Lydia Crane straightened. "Escort him out." The cops did, politely enough, but the message was clear. Lydia Crane had arrived with authority, not legal authority. She wasn't the police, but the authority that makes the police cooperate. Outside, cold air hit my bruises and made them complain again. I was halfway to the curb when Holden's voice called after me. "Mr. Goodwin, one more thing." I turned. Holden stood in the doorway, his face tight, eyes flicking behind him as if he feared being watched. 2 days before he vanished, Holden said quickly, Harold Pike came here. He asked about duplicate labels. He was scared. My stomach tightened. "Did he say who scared him?" Holden swallowed. He said, "Ben Lasker knows, but Ben can't protect me from Lydia Crane." I held Holden's gaze for a moment, letting that sentence settle like a weight. Lasker had warned me not to trust Quill's counsel. Now Holden was saying Pike feared her specifically. It could be true, or Holden could be trying to aim Wolfe's gun at Lydia Crane. But either way, the bullet would fly. I nodded once and walked away, because if I stayed another minute, the cops would decide to make their escort less polite. On the ride back to the brownstone, the city looked ordinary: taxis, pedestrians, neon signs, like it had never heard of kidnappings or dead dock workers. New York's great talent is ignoring anything that isn't blocking traffic. At West 35th, Fritz let me in with his usual calm. Wolfe was in the office, as if he had never moved, and yet the room felt different. Tenser, sharper, like the air had been filtered through an idea. Ellen Pike was there too, sitting now because she had run out of ways to stand. Saul Panzer was in the red chair again, reading nothing, thinking everything. I reported. Harbor Seal, Drew Holden, green tape orders, Clay Mercer, Lydia Crane arriving with police. Holden's revelation about Harold Pike and duplicate labels, and Pike's fear of Lydia Crane. When I finished, Wolfe sat very still. His eyes were heavy, and in them there was a glint, not of triumph, not of amusement, but of something close to certainty. "Lydia Crane," he said softly. Ellen's hands clenched. She did this. Wolfe lifted a hand. "Madam, do not rush." I said, "Holden swears." Pike said Lasker couldn't protect him from Crane. Wolfe's gaze remained distant for a moment. Then it snapped back, focused. Mr. Holden may be truthful, Wolfe said, or he may be attempting to direct us. Regardless, Miss Crane is now essential. Essential, I echoed. Wolfe's mouth tightened. She involved the police to remove you. She used the phrase corporate matters. She believes she can intimidate. She also arrived quickly, as if she had been monitoring your movements. Saul Panzer's voice was quiet. That suggests control of the surveillance. And perhaps of the threats, Wolfe added. Ellen Pike's voice rose, strained. Then arrest her, tell Inspector Kramer. Wolfe looked at her, and his tone was firm but not cruel. I do not arrest. I do not command the police. I command only reason, I said. So what do we do? Wolfe's eyes came to mine. Bring her here. I blinked. Invite her. Wolfe's gaze hardened, and the gleam returned. Summon her. I stared at him. How do you summon a corporate lawyer who walks around with policemen like accessories? Wolfe's voice was calm. By offering her what she believes she wants. And what's that? I asked. Wolfe leaned back slightly in his chair. The posture of a man who has decided the next move and is savoring its inevitability. Control, he said. And the assurance that I will not expose Quill Maritime publicly. Ellen Pike made a small sound of outrage. You can't promise that. Wolfe's gaze held hers. I can promise anything, madam. Whether I deliver it depends on circumstances. That was Wolfe at his most infuriating and most effective. He reached for the phone and dialed with slow deliberation. He did not call Lydia Crane, he called Martin Quill. When Quill answered, Wolfe spoke with polite firmness, the tone that makes wealthy men listen because it suggests a lawsuit without mentioning one. Mr. Quill, Wolfe said, I require Miss Crane at my residence this evening. She will come. I couldn't hear Quill's reply, but I could imagine it. Surprise, protest, demands. Wolfe listened, then said, if she does not come, I will inform Inspector Kramer of my suspicions regarding your internal counsel's involvement in a kidnapping and a murder. Good night. He hung up. Ellen stared at him as if he had slapped the air. You threatened him. I informed him of consequences, Wolfe said. There is a distinction. And if he refuses? I asked. Wolfe's eyes narrowed. He will not refuse. He is frightened. Of you, I said. Of scandal, Wolfe replied. And of death. He has now been reminded that my doorstep is not the only one that can receive deliveries. That was a chilling thought, and Wolfe didn't even shiver. Night fell. The house settled into its usual rhythms. Fritz in the kitchen, the faint smell of something rich and precise, beginning to rise, like civilized comfort trying to hold the line against chaos. Kramer called twice. Wolfe spoke to him briefly and gave him nothing. Kramer's irritation could have powered a small city. Ellen Pike sat in the office and watched the clock as if she could slow it by staring hard enough. I sat at my desk and tried to make notes that didn't turn into angry scribbles. At 9:30, the doorbell rang. Fritz went to answer, and his footsteps were unhurried, because Fritz refuses to let villains dictate tempo. A moment later, Fritz appeared at the office door. Mr. Wolfe, he announced, face composed. Miss Crane is here. Just like that, as if she'd been waiting for the invitation all along. Wolfe's eyes did not widen. He simply nodded once, a king acknowledging a visitor. Show her in, he said. And Archie, yes. His voice dropped slightly. Observe everything. Then Lydia Crane entered Wolfe's office. And the room felt colder. Chapter 7, Scene 1, Lydia Crane in Wolfe's office. If you ever want to see what the phrase cold competence looks like in a chair, you could have done worse than drop by Nero Wolfe's office at 10 minutes to 10 that night. Lydia Crane sat in the red leather chair as if the chair had been waiting for her. Her grey suit didn't wrinkle. Her hair didn't misbehave. Her hands rested on the armrests with the calm of a woman who signed documents for a living and never wondered afterward whether ink could be washed off a conscience. Wolfe regarded her from behind his desk with the calm of a man who has never once doubted the superiority of his own mind. and therefore has never seen a reason to hurry. He was in his customary throne. Light chair, shoulders broad, face composed, eyes heavy, lidded and alert. Fritz had closed the door and withdrawn, but I could feel Fritz's attention in the hallway like a good lock. Ellen Pike was not in the office. Wolfe had sent her upstairs an hour earlier, with a firm instruction to rest and a softer instruction to stop watching the clock, as if she could threaten time into cooperating. She had gone because she had reached the point where obedience was cheaper than collapse. Sol Panzer was downstairs. Nearby, in Sol's special way, present without being seen, as if the house itself had grown an extra sense. Wolfe began without preface, because Wolfe considers preface a waste of oxygen. "Miss Crane," he said, "you are involved in a kidnapping." Crane's lips curved faintly, a polite fraction that might have been a smile in a less efficient person. "That is a serious allegation." "It is," Wolfe agreed. He did not raise his voice. He did not lean forward. He merely stated it the way a doctor states a diagnosis. Crane's eyes were steady on him. It is also unsupported. Wolfe lifted his hand, and I stood. He does that. When he wants a show, I am the stagehand. On the corner of Wolfe's desk lay the butcher paper confession, still in an evidence envelope, still something Wolfe refused to touch with his fingers. He reached into his drawer and removed a pair of long metal tongs, sterilized, shiny, absurdly dignified for what they were about to hold. He used them to lift the confession page and raise it slightly, as though displaying a particularly ugly insect. "This," he said, "is theater." Crane's gaze flicked, just once, to the brown-red smears. It was a quick flick, almost nothing, but it happened. A person truly indifferent does not flick. They simply don't look. Wolfe's eyes narrowed a fraction. He had seen it too. "Theater requires a producer," Wolfe continued. "It requires organization, planning, and a mind that understands how to manipulate audiences. A corporation's legal counsel is often familiar with all three." Crane's voice remained mild. "If you wish to insult my profession, Mr. Wolfe, you are free to do so, but that note is not my concern. No." Wolfe's tone was gentle, but there was steel under it. "Then perhaps you will tell me why you appeared at Harbor Seal Packaging, accompanied by police officers." Crane didn't blink because Mr. Goodwin was trespassing and harassing a vendor under contract to my client. "I was asking questions," I said. "Harassment is what happens when people don't like the answers." Crane's eyes moved to me briefly, measuring, then returned to Wolfe. "Mr. Goodwin enjoys dramatics." "I enjoy breathing," I said. "Dramatics are incidental." Wolfe ignored me as usual. "Your concern," he told Crane, "is Quill Maritime stability. Your concern is the concealment of a fraud. Your concern is that Harold Pike discovered it." Crane's mouth tightened by a millimeter. "Mr. Wolfe, you are guessing." Wolfe's eyes stayed heavy. "Am I?" He lowered the confession page back to the desk with the tongs precisely, as if any crookedness would offend him. "Then why did you come when summoned?" Wolfe asked mildly. Crane's gaze chilled. "Because if you damage my client, I will take action." Wolfe lifted a hand without turning his head. "Archie." That was my cue again. I stepped forward and placed the torn strip of green tape on Wolfe's blotter, not touching anything else. The tape looked small and harmless under the lamp, like a child's craft supply. It had already helped kill at least one man. "Recognize the print through?" I asked Crane. "The ghost lettering." Her eyes stayed calm. "It's tape." "Correct," I said. "And that's an excellent lawyer's answer. Accurate and empty." I slid the doc receipt beside it, turned so the riddle faced her. "Summon and use this tape to cover shipment labels," I said. "Duplicate labels, double wrap, clean outside, dirty inside." Crane's eyes went to the receipt and held for half a beat too long. Then she looked away, as if the paper bored her. Wolfe spoke, voice even. "Someone is moving something illegal through Quill Maritime. The paperwork is clean because you keep it clean." Crane's spine stiffened. You are making accusations you cannot prove. Wolfe nodded slightly. Proof is a matter of time. I have 46 hours. That is sufficient. Crane's hand moved toward her purse. She rose smoothly. This meeting is over. Wolfe's voice sharpened, just enough to make the air snap. Sit down, she paused. In that pause, I saw it. Not fear, exactly, but calculation. She was doing arithmetic in her head. Risk versus reward. Bluff versus retreat. Her eyes flicked to the door, then to Wolfe, then to me. She sat again, slowly, without a word. Wolfe's gaze never wavered. Good, he said. Now we may speak honestly. Crane's voice was controlled. Mr. Wolfe, you cannot compel me. I can, Wolfe said, by being correct. That is Wolfe's favorite form of compulsion. He leaned back, hands on the chair arms, and his tone became almost conversational. You have attempted to control events. You arrived at Harbor Seal too quickly. You arrived here too quickly. You have used police officers as props. You have attempted to silence inquiry under the phrase, corporate matters. Those are not the acts of an innocent attorney disturbed by an eccentric detective. Crane's eyes narrowed slightly, and yet you still have no proof. Wolfe's eyelids drooped. We will discuss proof shortly. First, we will discuss Harold Pike. Crane's face did not change. Wolfe said, "Where is Harold Pike?" There it was, plain and direct, without ornament. Wolfe rarely asks for a location unless he thinks the answer exists in the room. Crane's lips parted, then closed. I don't know, Wolfe nodded once, as if confirming a suspicion rather than receiving information. Then you are not the principal. Crane's eyes flashed, quick and angry. You are the mechanism, Wolfe finished calmly. You keep paper clean. You direct police. You manage public risk. You are a lever, not a hand. For the first time, Crane's composure cracked, just barely. Her jaw tightened, and a faint color rose in her cheeks, not from embarrassment, but from fury. You are making enemies, Mr. Wolfe. Wolfe's eyes were flat. They are already made. Crane exhaled slowly, regained control. Her voice went colder. If you continue, you will destroy Quill Maritime. If Quill Maritime is innocent, Wolfe replied, it will survive. If it is corrupt, it deserves destruction. Crane's lips curled faintly again, but this time it wasn't a smile, it was contempt. Idealism from a man who charges a fee. Wolfe's nostrils flared. My fees are honest, yours are not. That hit. Not because it was insulting, Crane had heard worse, but because it was aimed. Crane stood again carefully, as if sudden movement might trigger something. Mr. Wolfe, I advise you to stop. Wolfe's tone remained mild. I advise you to start telling the truth. Crane picked up her purse, adjusted her coat on her arm, and looked at me as if I were a fly she could have swatted if she'd cared. Mr. Goodwin, she said, you are very loyal to your employer. I'm paid to be, I said. It's one of my finer qualities. Her eyes narrowed. Tell Mr. Wolfe that some problems cannot be solved by reason alone, Wolfe replied, without looking at her. On the contrary, all problems can be solved by reason. The difficulty is that some people resent the solution. Crane's gaze snapped to him, hard, bright. And then she turned and walked out. Fritz was waiting outside the office door with the quiet perfection of a man who knows how to stand in the right place without being seen as a threat. He nodded to Crane and escorted her downstairs with all the ceremony of showing out an unwelcome guest who still has social standing. When the door closed again, the office felt suddenly bigger, less tension in the air, more room for thought. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. She's good, I said. Wolfe's mouth tightened. She is competent. That is not the same as good. And she didn't crack, I said. She cracked, Wolfe corrected, in one place. When I called her dishonest. I blinked. You saw that? Wolfe looked at me as if I had just asked whether he could read. Archie, please. Her vanity is legal, not moral. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my cheek where one of the alley boys had introduced it to Brick. So she's not the principal. That means Mercer. Wolfe's eyes stayed distant. Perhaps. Or perhaps Mr. Quill himself. Or perhaps a person not yet named. But Miss Crane is a conduit. She knows more than she said, and she fears something. Not you, I said. Wolfe's voice was quiet. Do not be certain. Scene 2. The second body after Crane left. The house became quieter in that unnatural way it gets when Fritz moved through the halls with soft precision. The orchids upstairs were probably sleeping, which is more than I could say for anyone with a pulse. I had just reached for a pencil to write down Wolfe's last statement when the doorbell rang again. This time, it wasn't Fritz's calm knock at the office door, announcing a visitor with dignity. It was the telephone on Wolfe's desk ringing, and when I answered it, Saul Panzer's voice came through from the sidewalk. Tight, urgent, and Saul doesn't do urgent unless the universe insists. Archie, Saul said, you'd better come down. That was all. He didn't have to add anything. Saul's tone did the rest. I was out of the office, and halfway down the stairs before Wolfe's chair even creaked. Wolfe does not run. He also does not dawdle when a fact is calling from the front stoop. I reached the front hall with Fritz just behind me. The door was open. Cold air slid in like an accusation. On the stoop, slumped against the railing as if he had tried to hold himself upright and failed by inches, was Ben Lasker. He was alive, breathing hard, face bruised, suit rumpled, hair disordered. His eyes were open, and they held that wild clarity of a man who has been chased too long. Saul was crouched beside him, one hand hovering near Lasker's shoulder, but not touching more than necessary. Saul's gaze flicked to me once, a silent report, alive but not for long. Lasker's hand shot out and grabbed my sleeve. They're going to kill Quill, he rasped. Tonight. To blame me. To stop Wolfe. I felt my gut go tight. Who is they? Lasker. His grip tightened as if my sleeve were the last solid thing in the city. Mercer, he choked. Clay Mercer. He's running it. He's got men, dock men. His breath hitched. He coughed. It was a deep, tearing cough that sounded wrong. Get him inside, I said. Saul and I hauled him in carefully, because bruised men break easier than they look like they should. Fritz stepped back, giving room, already moving toward the back hall, where the phone was, because Fritz doesn't wait for instructions when he knows what's needed. Wolfe reached the bottom of the stairs and stopped, looking down at Lasker with that heavy, assessing stare. You are late, Wolfe said calmly. Lasker tried to laugh and it turned into a grimace. I couldn't, he swallowed. Harold Pike is alive. They have him at the docks, Pier 7, Quill's Pier, Mercer's men. Ellen Pike appeared at the top of the stairs, drawn by the commotion like a moth to a flame. The moment she saw Lasker, she gripped the banister hard. Harold, she whispered, you saw him. Lasker lifted his eyes toward her, and for a fraction of a second, his expression softened. Alive, he rasped. Last night they're using him paper. Labels, he coughed again. This time, blood spattered his hand. The sound Ellen made was small, strangled. She covered her mouth, eyes huge. Wolfe's gaze narrowed. He leaned a fraction closer, still not touching, but observing with frightening focus. Poison, Wolfe said. Kramer's voice boomed from outside. Because of course the inspector chose that moment to arrive, he was already halfway through the open door, hat in hand, irritation on his face like a uniform. What now? Kramer demanded. Wolfe, I've got 2 men outside and he saw Lasker on Wolfe's rug. His face changed, the irritation replaced by the swift professional attention of a man who knows death when he sees it approaching. Who's that? Kramer snapped. Ben Lasker, I said. Quill Maritime security, apparently not dead, despite the confession. Kramer crouched, already reaching for his notebook by habit. Ambulance. It will be too late, Wolfe said. Kramer glared up at him. Don't start with your... Lasker's breathing hitched again. He tried to speak and couldn't. Wolfe's voice cut through the room, precise and cold. "Mr. Lasker, if you can answer one question, answer this. Who is the clean man?" Lasker's eyes flicked, unfocused. "Holden," he whispered. "Gloves." "Name," Wolfe insisted. Lasker's mouth opened. A thin sound came out, almost a syllable, then dissolved into a cough that shook his whole body. Blood spilled again, darker now. Saul's hand moved to steady him. "Easy," Saul murmured. Lasker's eyes widened suddenly, as if he had seen something beyond the ceiling. He tried. Crane, nose, Mercer. His eyes rolled slightly. His body sagged. Wolfe's voice was quiet, almost clinical. "He is dying." Kramer's face tightened. He reached for Lasker's wrist, fingers pressing. He held a moment, then swore. Softly, this time, the way men swear when anger won't help. Ben Lasker's hand, still clutching my sleeve, loosened, his head tilted. He died on Nero Wolfe's carpet. That carpet has heard confessions, threats, pleas, and once a baritone singing voice that never should have been allowed indoors. Now it had also received a corpse that was meant to be a statement. Ellen Pike made a sound that was half sob and half gasp. Fritz guided her back from the stairs with gentle firmness, steering her away from the sight before she collapsed. Fritz can handle anything. Sources, orchids, police, grief, without raising his voice. Kramer stood, face grim, and looked at Wolfe. "All right," he said. "Now you tell me everything." Wolfe's gaze was on Lasker's dead face. "Inspector," he said quietly, "you already have enough. You have a dead dock worker on my steps, and now you have a dead security man in my house. You will have your men collect them, and you will refrain from contaminating my office with your temper." Kramer's jaw worked. "Contaminating?" "Archie," Wolfe said, cutting him off. "Bring me the confession again." I went to Wolfe's desk, took the evidence envelope, and held it up. Wolfe reached for his tongs and lifted the butcher paper confession once more. He studied it for a long moment. Then he spoke, not as a question, not as an accusation, but as a conclusion that made the room feel colder. "The confession has a new purpose," Wolfe said, "to make the dead man look guilty." Kramer stared. "What the hell are you talking about?" Wolfe's eyes lifted, heavy and certain. "Ben Lasker was meant to be dead earlier," he said. "They announced it in advance, in false blood, so that when he actually died, the world would accept the narrative without asking why." Kramer's face hardened. "So you're saying this was planned?" "Yes," Wolfe said, "and now the time is shorter." I looked at the wall clock, at the slow movement of its hands. 46 hours. 45. The numbers were shrinking like a noose. Wolfe turned his gaze to me. "Archie?" "Yes?" "Call Mr. Quill," Wolfe said. "Now tell him his security chief is dead in my office. Tell him I will see him within the hour." Kramer's eyes widened. "You can't just..." Wolfe's gaze snapped to him. "Inspector, I can do anything I choose. You may interfere if you wish. You may also explain to Miss Pike why her brother dies while you argue jurisdiction." Kramer's mouth shut. He didn't like Wolfe's tone, but he liked being wrong even less. Wolfe's eyes returned to me. "Also call Mr. Mercer." I blinked. "Mercer, after he tried to..." "Precisely," Wolfe said. "Tell him I require his presence tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock in this office." Kramer barked. "Are you out of your mind? You think he'll come?" Wolfe's expression did not change. "He will come," he said, "because he is now the principal, or he is very close to the principal, and he believes he can manage me as he has attempted to manage you." He leaned back, calm as a man planning a meal. "And because he thinks I am still playing with paper," I felt a chill climb my spine. "Boss," I said softly, "they poisoned Lasker." Wolfe's eyes were flat. "Yes, and they might poison somebody else," I said, "including Quill, including Harold Pike." Wolfe's voice dropped, and it carried a quiet fury I didn't hear often. "Then we will hurry," he said. "But we will hurry intelligently." Outside, Kramer's men were moving, boots on the stoop, voices in the hall. Wolfe's brownstone was being invaded again by procedure and grief, and Wolfe hated both. I reached for the phone. As I dialed, I looked down at Ben Lasker's body on Wolfe's rug, and the fake blood confession waiting on the desk upstairs, and the strip of green tape that had become a signature. This wasn't just smuggling anymore. It was a script, and Wolfe had just decided to rewrite it, with all of us trapped on the stage. Chapter 8, Scene 1. The shape of the trapped Ben Lasker's body had been removed from Wolfe's rug, but the room still felt stained by it, even after Fritz had aired the office and wiped the smallest smears from the floor with a cloth that probably deserved a pension. The atmosphere held the fact of death the way velvet holds perfume. Wolfe sat at his desk and did not move. When Wolfe is furious, he does not pace. He becomes still, and the stillness gets dangerous. It is the stillness of a man turning anger into geometry. They intend, Wolfe said, to attribute Mr. Lasker's death to his guilt. He put faint emphasis on the word, as if it were a cheap fabric, and then they will attempt to eliminate Martin Quill to seal the narrative. Inspector Kramer was standing near the window, hat in his hand, his face red with thwarted authority. "Then we arrest Mercer," he growled. Now, Wolfe's eyes lifted, heavy and contemptuous. "Not yet. You require proof. That will endure. Inspector, not suspicion that will evaporate." Kramer's jaw worked. He glanced at me like he wanted to pick me up and shake answers loose. "We've got 2 dead men tied to Quill Maritime, and you saw Mercer try to run you down. What do you call that, if not proof?" Wolfe's tone was almost patient, which meant he was taking Kramer seriously enough to explain. "I call it evidence, not proof. Evidence can be questioned. Proof constrains the questioning," Kramer snorted. "You're playing word games while a man's been kidnapped." Ellen Pike sat in the corner, pale hands clenched together so tightly, her knuckles looked bleached. She had heard too many mentions of her brother as a man, and not enough as Harold. "My brother is at the docks," she whispered. It came out like prayer and accusation at once. "We have to go." Wolfe's gaze moved to her, and for a moment his expression softened, not in sentiment, but in calculation that included her. Kramer snapped. "Then let's—" Wolfe cut him off with a small lift of his hand. "Inspector, if you charge in with uniforms and sirens, they will move Mr. Pike or kill him. You will satisfy your appetite for action and accomplish nothing." Kramer's face darkened. "Then what do you propose?" Wolfe's voice stayed even. "We will enter the docks quietly. We will observe. We will extract Harold Pike, and we will allow Mr. Mercer to believe he has the advantage." Kramer stared. "Allow him." Wolfe's eyes were flat. Yes, that was when I understood the shape of it. Wolfe wasn't going to fight their script by refusing to act. He was going to fight it by acting in a way they didn't anticipate, by making their trap close on their own fingers. Wolfe's gaze moved to me. "Archie, arrange it." That meant cars, men, timing, and the special kind of trouble that smells like river fog and metal. "I stood, Saul," I said. Wolfe nodded. "Mr. Panzer will accompany you, Mr. Durkin as well." Kramer barked. "And my men." Wolfe regarded him as if considering whether policemen were a useful species. "2," Wolfe said. "In plain clothes, competent ones." Kramer's mouth tightened. "I've got competent." Wolfe's brows lifted. "That will be refreshing." Ellen Pike rose too, quickly. "I'm going." Wolfe's voice was firm. Number her eyes flashed. "You can't stop me." Wolfe's eyes held hers with a calm that could have been poured from stone. "Madam, if you go, you will die or you will cause your brother to die. You will remain here. Fritz will keep you here." Ellen's gaze darted to Fritz, who had appeared at the doorway quietly, as if he had been summoned by Wolfe's intent. Fritz did not look like a jailer. He looked like a man who would quietly block a doorway with his body if he had to, and apologize while doing it. Ellen swallowed hard. Her hands trembled. Then she nodded once, as if conceding to the only argument that mattered, her brother's life. "All right," she whispered. "Just bring him back." Wolfe's voice was low. "We will attempt it." I went to the phone, made calls, and felt the city shift into motion around those calls. Durkin would be at the corner in 10 minutes. Saul would appear without being summoned because Saul had already decided to. Kramer would supply 2 plainclothesmen who were as competent as the police ever allow themselves to be. And I would take Wolfe's instructions and translate them into street-level risk. When I returned, Wolfe had not moved, but his eyes had changed. They were more focused, more hungry. He was thinking ahead of all of us. "Archie," he said quietly, "remember, we are not storming a fortress. We are entering a theater." "And the bad guys wrote the play," I said. Wolfe's mouth tightened. "Yes, therefore, we will change the ending." Scene 2, docks at night. Quill Maritime at night was not the polished glass and carpeted hallways we'd seen earlier. It was an animal made of metal, fog shadows and hard edges. The river was there too, breathing in long quiet pulls like a sleeping beast that eats mistakes. We parked 2 blocks away and walked. The air smelled of diesel and salt and cold iron. The ground was damp. The sounds were smaller at night. Footsteps, distant machinery, the occasional clang of a chain settling, everything muffled by fog. Durkin was with me, broad and steady. Saul was a few paces behind, not close enough to attract attention, close enough to kill trouble if it stepped wrong. The 2 plainclothesmen Kramer had supplied, Lieutenant Grover and Sergeant Lentz, both faces I'd seen before, stayed farther back, looking like men who might be lost but weren't. Wolfe was not supposed to go. Fane Wolfe almost never goes. So when I glanced back and saw the heavy silhouette moving in the fog with deliberate steps, my stomach tightened. "Boss," I murmured. "When he drew close enough to be real, you said." "I changed my mind," Wolfe replied. "That was all. No justification, no apology." Wolfe's pride would rather carry him into danger than admit he had been compelled. Durkin's eyebrows lifted, but he said nothing. Saul's eyes narrowed slightly, as if recalculating. The policemen looked startled, then resigned, because they had learned long ago that Wolfe was like weather. You could predict him until he decided to change. Wolfe's voice was low. "I will not permit Mr. Mercer to think he controls my actions, and I will not permit you, Archie, to act without my judgment available." I wanted to argue. I didn't. Wolfe had come because he believed his presence mattered. And if Wolfe believed that, it usually did. We didn't storm, we observed. We moved along the perimeter of the dockyard, using stacks of containers as cover. The containers rose like cliffs, each marked with stenciled numbers and logos, each one capable of hiding anything from furniture to bodies. A forklift beeped somewhere in the fog, that annoying cheerful beep that says industrial machinery is backing up and doesn't care who is in the way. We saw movement near a container stack on Pier 7. 2 figures stood close, one taller, one smaller. A third moved in and out of shadow like a nervous thought. I crouched behind a stack and raised my head just enough to see. Clay Mercer was there. He was unmistakable even through fog, broad shoulders, stiff posture, the confidence of a man who believes he owns the ground under his feet. Beside him, hunched slightly, was Drew Holden. He wore pale work gloves, and the memory clicked. The clean man at the anchor line. Holden looked frightened. Not the mild fear of a man worried about paperwork. Real fear, jaw tight, hands fidgeting, eyes darting, as if searching for exits in a landscape of steel. Mercer looked calm. He was talking, one hand gesturing occasionally, as if giving instructions to a subordinate. A container door stood half open nearby. Inside, faint light spilled out. A pale rectangle in the fog. Saul moved closer and whispered, "Hostage." Wolfe's eyes were fixed on the container, and his face was stone. "Yes," he murmured. "That is their stage." Durkin's voice was low. "How do we?" "We move," I said. "We move the way you move when you don't want to be noticed. Slow, using cover, timing footsteps with machinery sounds." The forklift beeped again, and we took advantage of it, slipping closer as if the beep were a curtain. A dock worker crossed our line of sight carrying a clipboard. He didn't look at us. He was too focused on his own small survival. We reached the container door. I could see inside now, a chair, a man tied to it, Harold Pike. His face was bruised, one cheek swollen, hair disheveled, shirt collar open. His eyes were open and furious, alive in the way a man is alive when he refuses to let pain take his mind. I slipped inside first, knife already in my hand. "Harold," I said softly. His eyes snapped to me, and recognition flickered. Maybe from Ellen's description, maybe from desperation. I cut the rope at his wrists, then his ankles. The knots were tight but not clever. Dockmen tie rope, the way they tie shipments, fast and strong. Harold Pike surged forward as soon as he was free, grabbing my sleeve with shaking fingers. "They're moving counterfeit pharmaceuticals," he rasped. His voice was raw, but his mind was sharp, and that was both impressive and dangerous. Fake labels. Real deaths, I found invoices. Lydia buried them. Mercer runs the dockside. Quill knows enough to look away. I felt cold settle in my stomach. Fake drugs, real bodies. That was worse than smuggling luxury goods. That was murder on a schedule. "Save it," I said. "You can testify later. Right now you walk." He tried to stand, wobbled, caught himself on the chair. Behind me, Saul was watching the door, Durkin watching the shadows. Wolfe was outside. In the fog, a heavy presence that I still couldn't quite accept. Then the sound came, a small metallic click, the sound of a gun being cocked. Every muscle in my body tightened. Clay Mercer's voice came out of the darkness, just outside the container, smooth and pleased. "That's where you're wrong, Goodwin." He stepped into the light holding a pistol. Behind him, one step back, half hidden, was Drew Holden, face white, eyes wide, hands shaking as if he were trying not to vanish. Two dockmen flanked Mercer, both with thick arms and the posture of men who had been paid to stop thinking. Mercer smiled like a man who'd already written the ending. Wolfe should have stayed home. I kept my hands visible, careful not to make any heroic gestures that would get me perforated. "He did," I said. "He sent me. I'm the disposable one." Mercer's eyes glittered. "Then dispose." He raised the gun. From behind Mercer, calm as a verdict. "Put it down, Mr. Mercer." Mercer spun, startled, because even men who believe they control everything can still be surprised by a 270-pound detective appearing out of fog like judgment. Saul moved at the same instant, fast, precise. His hand clamping Mercer's wrist. The gun fired. The shot went wide, slammed into the container wall with a clang like a hammer on metal. One of the dockmen screamed, not from the shot, but because Saul's elbow had found his throat in the same motion. Chaos erupted. Durkin lunged, grabbed Holden by the coat, yanked him back. Holden stumbled, nearly falling, eyes wild. The other dockman rushed Saul, and Saul pivoted, using Mercer's arm like a lever, turning the gun hand outward. Harold Pike swayed beside me, trying to stay upright. Outside the container, a car horn blared long, furious, like a signal, not a random horn. A deliberate one. The docks answered it. Shouts, running footsteps, forklift beeps, metal doors slamming, lights flicking on in patches as men moved into positions like a rehearsed drill. Mercer grinned, even as Saul held his wrist. He looked at Wolfe, and the grin was ugly satisfaction. "Too late," Mercer said. "Quill's dead already." The words hit like a cold wave. Wolfe's face did not change, his eyes did not widen. But something in the air shifted, the way it shifts when a plan has just been struck and has to reshape instantly. I heard the distant wail of sirens starting up. Maybe Kramer. Maybe someone else. The horn blared again. Mercer's grin widened. "You walked into the wrong container, Wolfe." And then the dock lights fully flared, flooding the fog with harsh white, and I saw men moving between container stacks. More than 2, more than 5, closing in. We were not simply in a dockside war. We were in a trap designed for Wolfe, and the stage was about to close its curtains on all of us. Chapter 9, Scene 1. Quill's death. We got Harold Pike back to the brownstone alive, which felt like a victory until you remembered that victory was measured in hours, and not in comfort. Harold sat in Wolfe's office with a blanket around his shoulders and a cup of Fritz's coffee in his hands, like it was the only solid object in the world. He coughed sometimes, dry, painful, and every cough sounded like a bill coming due. But his eyes were clear. His mind was sharper than his bruised face had any right to be. Ellen Pike had rushed downstairs when we came in, and the sight of her brother standing on his own feet, barely, but standing, had made her emit a sound I won't try to describe. It was relief and grief and fury squeezed into one breath. She held him for 3 seconds, then stepped back and stared, as if she needed to keep seeing him to keep him real. Wolfe did not allow hugging in his office. He tolerated it for those 3 seconds because Wolfe, when he chooses, is capable of being human. Then the night bit again. The phone rang. Not mine this time, Wolfe's. Fritz brought the receiver to Wolfe like a priest, bringing a chalice, then withdrew. Wolfe listened. His face did not change, but I saw his eyes tighten at the corners. He hung up and said calmly, "Martin Quill has been found dead in his office." Kramer, who had followed us back from the docks, like an angry dog refusing to go home, snapped his head around. "Dead?" Wolfe nodded slightly. An apparent overdose pill scattered, a suicide note on his desk. Ellen Pike's hand went to her mouth again, reflex from too many shocks. Harold Pike's fingers tightened around his cup. Kramer's face darkened into something almost eager. "Mercer," he growled. "I'll hang Mercer with his own tie." Wolfe's voice was even. Number Kramer blinked. "No." Wolfe met his gaze. "It is counterfeit." Kramer's eyes narrowed. "The pills? The death?" Wolfe replied. That stopped the room for a second. Even Fritz in the doorway seemed to pause, as if the air had shifted. Harold Pike rasped. Mercer said Quill was dead already. Wolfe's eyes moved to Harold. "Yes, and men who announce deaths often do so because they require the announcement, not because they have the corpse." Kramer barked. "Are you saying Quill isn't dead?" Wolfe's tone remained maddeningly calm. "I am saying the scene is staged. We will verify." Kramer turned toward the door. "Fine, we go now." Wolfe's mouth tightened. "We will go now," he corrected, "and you will bring men who can restrain their excitement." Kramer glared, but he moved. He liked action. He liked it even more when it meant he could arrest someone. We left Ellen and Harold at the brownstone under Fritz's watchful eye and Saul's quieter one. Saul didn't speak much, but he had his own calm violence, and anyone who came near the house uninvited would discover it quickly. Wolfe came with us. He carried his cane, not for walking but for emphasis. Wolfe uses objects the way other men use tone. At Quill Maritime, the lobby's polished surfaces reflected more than mistakes now. They reflected uniforms and tension. The building felt less like a company and more like a crime scene pretending to be a company. Kramer's men had already sealed the executive floor. An officer escorted us to Quill's office, and the corridor that had earlier smelled faintly of carpet, and money now smelled of disinfectant and fear. Quill's office door stood open. Inside, the lights were too bright, the kind of brightness used to show there are no corners for secrets. The body lay on the carpet near the desk. Martin Quill, or what was supposed to be Martin Quill, was sprawled on his back, suit rumpled, face slack. Pills were scattered around his hand like confetti, and on the desk above him sat a bottle tipped over as if it had been knocked by a dramatic gesture. A sheet of paper lay on the desk too, perfectly placed, as though it had been waiting for the photographer. Lydia Crane stood near the doorway, rigid, arms at her sides, eyes red but face controlled. She looked like a woman trying to decide whether grief could be litigated. When Wolfe entered, he did not look first at the body. He looked at the desk. He always looks at the mechanism first. His cane lifted slightly and pointed. Not a jab, not a flourish, just an indicator. "Archie," he said. I went to the desk and read the note. It was neat, rehearsed. The kind of suicide note written to be read, not written to be true. I read it silently first, then out loud enough for Wolfe and Kramer, to my employees and my family. It went on with contrition, apology, and a polite request that no one blame others. It had the rhythm of a corporate press release, not a man ending his life. Wolfe's voice was quiet. The handwriting is not Quill's. Lydia Crane's head snapped toward him. You don't know his handwriting. Wolfe's eyes stayed on the page. I know the handwriting of a man who writes for himself. This is the handwriting of a person writing for an audience. Kramer snorted. That's not evidence. Wolfe's gaze moved to the pill bottle and the scattered tablets. Then we will use evidence, he leaned. Only slightly, because Wolfe does not bend easily, and looked at the dead man's mouth. These pills were not taken, Wolfe said. The lips show no residue, the tongue is not stained. There is no bitter saliva, no powder in the corners. Kramer blinked. Thrown off, he crouched, peered, then straightened again with a grunt that said he hated being impressed. Kud wiped his mouth. Kramer argued, but the argument was weaker than his voice. Wolfe's cane tip moved toward the bottle. And the bottle is too clean, the label is uncreased. It has been placed, not handled in desperation. The pills are scattered in a pattern that suggests a hand tossing them, not a hand trembling. He walked slowly, not to the body, but to the window. He looked down at the street as if the street might show him the next move. They need Quill dead, Wolfe said, to remove him from control while they move the final shipment. They will revive him later, or they will transport him elsewhere. Quill is not here. The sentence landed like a cold stone. My stomach tightened. Then whose body is that? Wolfe turned and looked at the corpse again. This time his gaze went to the hands. Always the hands, because hands reveal work. Then he looked at the cuffs. A dock worker, Wolfe said. A man who wore brass buttons. I stepped closer, careful not to disturb anything, and checked the shirt cuff torn. The fabric had the faint imprint of something that had been ripped away. A circle. A pattern. A missing Q button. I looked up. You're right. Ellen Pike was not there, but I could hear her voice in my head, saying they were using people like props, and I could feel my anger tighten. Kramer's face had gone stiff, so they dragged some dock worker in here and dressed him up like Quill. Wolfe's gaze hardened. Yes? Lydia Crane's jaw trembled. That's insane. No, Wolfe said. It is business. Wolfe turned toward her, and his voice did something rare. It snapped. Not volume, but precision. The words clicked like a trap closing. Where is Martin Quill? Crane's lips parted. Her composure held for half a second longer, then cracked just enough to show what was beneath it. Terror. She began. Wolfe's eyes narrowed further. Now, her throat worked. She looked at Kramer, at the uniforms, at Wolfe, and it was as if she realized for the first time that her legal armor would not stop a gun. They took him, she whispered. Mercer and Holden. They said if I didn't cooperate, they'd... She swallowed hard. They'd destroy me. They have things. Blackmail, Wolfe said, almost with satisfaction. They have been blackmailing you as well. Good. Then you can be useful. Kramer stepped forward immediately, reflexive as a spring. You're under arrest. Crane flinched, shoulders tightening. Wolfe lifted a hand. Inspector, not yet. Kramer sputtered. Not yet. Wolfe's voice was calm again, infuriatingly so. Not until we catch the shipment. That is the heart. The rest is packaging. Crane stared at Wolfe as if he had become something inhuman. You're letting me. I am exploiting you, Wolfe said bluntly. Be grateful. It may save you from prison or death. Kramer's face reddened. Wolfe, you can't just... I can, Wolfe said. You may arrest her when I am finished with her. Kramer's jaw worked, but he held. He didn't like it. He also didn't like the idea of losing the shipment Wolfe was clearly aiming for, because that shipment was now the case's spine. Wolfe looked at me. Archie. Yes, boss. The final riddle is simple, Wolfe said. What sinks without water? A container. We will watch the river. I stared at him. You think they're moving it tonight? Wolfe's eyes were flat and certain. Yes, they staged this death to occupy the police and remove Quill from the board. Now they will move the piece that matters. He tapped his cane once on the carpet, a sharp sound that made even the officers glance. "Inspector," Wolfe said to Kramer, "you will place men discreetly at Quill's piers. Not uniforms, not sirens, men who can observe and report." Kramer's mouth tightened. "And if I don't?" Wolfe's gaze held his. "Then Harold Pike will be kidnapped again, and you will explain to his sister why you preferred procedure to results." Kramer swore under his breath. "All right," he said. "All right, but if this blows..." "It will not," Wolfe said. He turned to Lydia Crane. "You will come with us." Crane's eyes widened. "Meme?" "Yes," Wolfe said. "You have been a mechanism. Now you will be a witness, and you will tell me everything you know about the final shipment." Crane swallowed. "I don't." Wolfe's eyes narrowed. "Do not insult me, you know." Her face tightened. For a moment she looked like she might refuse. Then her eyes flicked to the body on the carpet. The dock worker wearing Quill's death, and the refusal drained out of her. "I know," she said quietly. Wolfe nodded. "Good." We left Quill Maritime with the police grumbling behind us and Lydia Crane walking stiffly at Wolfe's side, like a woman who has just realized the law is not always the strongest force in the room. Outside, the river wind cut through my coat. The city lights glimmered on wet pavement. Somewhere, down by the piers, a container was waiting, wrapped clean on paper, dirty inside, ready to sink without water. And Wolfe, heavier than any man should be for moving quietly, was already arranging the final office gathering in his mind. Chapter 10, Scene 1. The sting. Wolfe set the trap the way he always does, without leaving his chair, using other people's impatience as the lever and their vanity as the fulcrum. By 9 the next morning, the office had the stale air feel of a place where the night never truly ended. Harold Pike sat in my chair at the side of my desk, wrapped in one of Fritz's blankets, like a man who had been returned to the human race by inches. Ellen Pike sat close enough to touch him, not touching, because she had learned the hard way that sudden contact can make a battered man flinch. Saul Panzer occupied the red chair with the calm of a man who had already won 3 fights in his head and was deciding which ones were worth having in the street. Inspector Kramer stood near the door, hat in hand, looking as if the furniture had offended him personally. Lydia Crane sat in the straight chair by the bookcase, rigid, lips pressed tight, eyes staring straight ahead. She had chosen self-preservation and had discovered that self-preservation still feels humiliating. Wolfe did not look at her. Wolfe looked at Harold Pike. "Proceed," Wolfe said. Harold swallowed once, coughed lightly, then began dictating. He did it the way auditors do everything. Precise, methodical, determined to anchor chaos in numbers. He recited invoice numbers, label codes, shipping dates, and the double wrap method in a voice that grew steadier as he spoke, as if facts were oxygen. "Legitimate medical shipments," Harold rasped, "arrive labeled correctly. At the dock, the labels are swapped. Duplicate labels printed to match legitimate manifests. Green harbor seal tape seals the relabeled cartons. The counterfeit product moves fast, through distributors who don't ask questions. People die quietly. The money doesn't." Wolfe listened with his eyes half-lidded, like a man absorbing music. He asked one question every few minutes, always the question that made the next fact snap into place. "Which dock personnel handled the label swap?" Wolfe asked. Harold's eyes tightened. Mercer had a crew. Keller was one. Hank Rudd knew, but he wasn't on the swap crew. The swap was done by men Mercer chose, men he could fire or break. Wolfe nodded once. "And Drew Holden's role?" Harold's mouth tightened. "He printed the labels. He supplied the tape. He claimed he didn't know what the labels were for, but he knew they were duplicates. He knew enough to be scared." Wolfe's voice was even. "Yes." When Harold finished, Wolfe sat back as if satisfied that the bones of the thing were now laid out where he could see them. Then he made 2 moves. The first went through Kramer. Wolfe spoke to the inspector with the calm of a man instructing a clerk. "Inspector, you will allow information to reach Mr. Mercer that Harold Pike is alive and speaking, not officially, indirectly." Through channels criminals monitor. Kramer scowled. You want me to leak? I want you to bait, Wolfe said. Kramer's jaw worked. He hated it. He also knew Wolfe was right. All right, he growled. I'll have someone let it slip. The second move went through me. Wolfe turned his heavy gaze on me. Archie, you will ensure Mr. Mercer's people here that I intend to hand Mr. Pike's statements and documents to the district attorney by noon. I lifted my brows. We're going to give them a deadline inside their deadline. Precisely, Wolfe said. Men like Mercer do not tolerate clocks. They do not control. I used the phone and a couple of carefully chosen tongues to make the rumor roll where it needed to roll. In New York, news doesn't travel by newspaper. It travels by fear. Then Wolfe did the one thing criminals can't resist. He offered a deal. He had Saul deliver the message through a contact Saul didn't name, and I didn't ask, because Saul's contacts are like plumbing. You don't want to see them, you just want them to work. The message was simple and irresistible. Wolfe would trade Harold Pike for Martin Quill, quietly, at Dock 14. At midnight. It was a lie, of course, but it was a lie with bait wrapped in tape. Scene 2, Dock 14. Midnight fog rolled low over the river, thick enough to make light look tired. The water sounded patient, as if it had been listening to human schemes for centuries and never once been impressed. Dock 14 was quiet in the way places get quiet when men with guns are nearby. Shapes loomed. Cranes, container stacks, the dark outlines of trucks parked like sleeping animals. Police were hidden where police hide best, badly, but in numbers. Kramer had placed plainclothes men behind pallets and in trucks with their lights off, and he had done it with such determination that I almost believed he'd learned subtlety overnight. I stood with Saul and Durkin behind a stack of containers, watching the open space by the dock edge. Wolfe stood a little forward of us, in a heavy coat, his hat pulled low. He looked absurd and magnificent at the same time, an enormous man who belonged in a brownstone library, standing on wet planks near a river as if he were holding court. If Wolfe had been uneasy, he didn't show it. Wolfe's pride is a better overcoat than anything Fritz could buy. Mercer arrived 10 minutes after midnight. He came in a dark sedan, of course, and stepped out with the posture of a man who believes the world exists to be managed. He had a gun in his hand, and he held it casually like a cigarette. Drew Holden came with him, pale and shaking, eyes darting. 2 dock men flanked them, big, obedient, and stupid enough to be dangerous. Between them was Martin Quill, olive, gagged, hands bound, suit rumpled, furious eyes burning through the fog, like he wanted to sue someone into the river. Ellen Pike was not there. Wolfe had forbidden it. Lydia Crane was not there either. Kramer had let her attorney take her downtown on the promise she would cooperate, and in the lull she slipped her leash, vanishing long enough to bargain later when the state had its shipment and she had leverage. Mercer stopped in the open area and shouted, "Where's Pike?" Wolfe stepped into the light as if he had been waiting for the cue. Mercer laughed. It wasn't humor. It was disbelief and contempt mixed together. "You came," he said. Wolfe's voice was flat. "I am ending this." Mercer jerked the gun toward Quill's head. "Then trade." Wolfe lifted his cane slightly, not as a weapon but as a pointer. "You cannot kill him," Wolfe said. "You require him alive to sign the shipping release that moves your final container. You forged his death for a reason." Mercer's smile wavered for the first time. It was small, but it happened. "A man who is certain does not waver." Wolfe continued, calm and inexorable. "You attempted to frame Ben Lasker with a false confession written in counterfeit blood. You killed him with poison when he ceased to be manageable. You staged a suicide with a substitute corpse. You have been sealing your lies with green harbor seal tape purchased under your authority." Mercer's eyes flicked, tiny, toward Drew Holden. Holden's face collapsed like a badly built tent. "Clay," he whispered. I didn't know it would." Wolfe's voice softened by a fraction, and that softness was more lethal than hardness. "And now Mr. Holden understands that you will kill him as well." Holden made a sound that was half sob and half decision. He lunged at Mercer's gun arm. Everything happened at once. Mercer swore. Trying to wrench his arm free, the gun went off. Wild into the fog, the shot cracked, and the river seemed to flinch. Kramer's men surged out of hiding with the kind of enthusiasm you only see when policemen have been forced to wait. One dockman raised his hands. The other tried to run. Saul Panzer moved like a closing door. He struck Mercer hard, shoulder into chest, driving him backward. Mercer stumbled, tried to recover, but Saul's hand was already on his wrist, twisting the gun down and away. Durkin grabbed Holden as Holden staggered back, and Holden clutched his shoulder. Blood seeping through his fingers, eyes wide with shock that he was still alive. Quill fell to his knees, gagged and coughing, and one of Kramer's men cut his bonds while another yanked the gag free. Quill sucked air like a man who had been holding his breath for months. Mercer thrashed, face red with rage. "You can't prove it," he screamed. Wolfe stepped close enough that Mercer had to look up at him. Wolfe's face was calm, his eyes were cold, his voice was quiet, and in it was the finality of a judge reading sentence. "I can," Wolfe said, "because the container you plan to move tonight, the one with counterfeit pharmaceuticals, has already been seized." Mercer froze, as if the words had been physical. "No," he said, and it came out smaller than his earlier roar. Number Wolfe's gaze did not soften. "Yes," he said. "The green tape was your signature. The duplicate labels were your method. The riddle was your arrogance." Kramer shoved in and snapped cuffs on Mercer with visible satisfaction, like a man who has finally been allowed to bite something. Mercer tried to twist away. "Quill, tell them you didn't." Quill, on his knees, wiped blood from his lip and looked up at Mercer with eyes full of hatred and something else, fear of what was now unavoidable. He said nothing. That was the loudest thing he could have said. Scene 3, back at the brownstone. By morning the case was stitched up tight enough to hold. Harold Pike was alive, in a hospital bed, with Ellen Pike sitting beside him like a guard dog with tears. Quill Maritime's empire was about to be audited, like a sinner at confession, and it would not enjoy the experience. Kramer grumbled thanks in the form of complaints, which is how he expresses affection without risking dignity. "You could have told me sooner," he barked in Wolfe's office, while sipping Fritz's coffee like it was medicine. "You could have." Wolfe regarded him. "Inspector, you would have blundered sooner." Kramer scowled. "And you would have sat in your chair sooner." "Yes," Wolfe said, "which is where competence resides." Kramer swore, then almost smiled, then decided not to. Lydia Crane, caught between her own fear and the state's patience, took a plea arrangement and tried not to meet anyone's eyes. Drew Holden would testify, because pain makes a man honest, and because Mercer's brand of leadership had taught him that loyalty is a one-way street. Martin Quill, alive and furious and humiliated, promised cooperation with the intensity of a man who had nearly become a corpse for someone else's bookkeeping. Wolfe sat back in his chair, finally back in his natural habitat, as if the docks had been a minor inconvenience rather than a night of fog and gunfire. I poured myself a glass of milk, because after nights like that, whiskey feels like an invitation to collapse, and sat at my desk. There was one itch in my mind that hadn't stopped scratching. "The first confession," I said. "Why send it to us?" Wolfe's mouth curved faintly, not quite a smile, more like the shadow of one. "To frighten me, to focus me on Ben Lasker, to compress time. A hurried man makes errors." "And the blood?" I asked. Wolfe sniffed. A sound of distaste for both the substance and the theatrics. "Pig's blood likely, convenient." I exhaled. So the box was wrapped like a gift, taped like a vault, and filled with a lie. Wolfe's gaze drifted toward his orchids, visible through the plant room door. They were the only things in the house that never lied, never hurried, never threatened anyone, unless you counted their quiet superiority. "Yes," Wolfe said. It was a wrapped box, and the secret was not inside it. I lifted my glass. What was it then? Wolfe's eyes came back to me, calm and final. "The secret," Wolfe said. was that the killer believed packaging could replace truth. I drank my milk outside. New York kept moving, wrapped in its own paper, taped up tight, hoping nobody bothered to open it.